Hey everyone, it's Wednesday, September 9th, 2020, and you are listening to the MC Gamescast. I am one of your hosts, Mitchell Barrett, and joining me, as usual, on the mend, is my good pal, the other host, Charlie Zarzuela. How's it going, buddy?
I don't know, man. Sounds like you may need to be on the mend. No, it's going okay. It's been a crazy week, with work and everything like that. And I kind of fell into a little health trap, if you will. So it's been a nutty one.
Sorry, I've got some audio issues on my side here. Yeah. Not only that, we've had month end, and it's been, so we decided to go back one day, and that's fine, because we have got huge news to go into here in a little bit. Just so huge. Everybody's talking about it. Nobody's ever seen anything like it before in their life. There's your political talk on the podcast.
It's huge.
Charlie, do me a favor, vamp for 10 seconds.
Well, so just let everybody out there know, I was COVID tested this week. To be honest, it was just really all precautionary. I got really scared because I got really sick out of nowhere. I got all those weird symptoms, the random fatigue, the all the flu symptoms that came with therein. And so I ran to my closest CVS place, stuck one of those prong things up my nose and tickled my brain a little bit. Woke up some of these dark hidden memories that I had pushed way down into the centers of my soul. And so hopefully in a couple of days I get some good news. So
yeah.
Yep.
You sound better. It sounds like you're feeling a little better as well. Tell me about, if you don't mind me asking, kind of the actual test. Was it as bad as it looks like it is?
It's not as bad as what it used to be, but it's still, when they test for flu, and it's self-administered. So honestly, you make it as bad as the experience is.
Okay.
It's these little, the Q-tips are so skinny. It's the smallest wire that I've ever seen. And you just kind of put it up in there, and it's kind of weird because, you put it up in there and they tell you to hold it. And you honestly look kind of stupid because you're sitting there.
Sure.
It was in a line at CVS, and you're just kind of sitting there and you have this thing up your nose, and they're watching you the entire way, and you're just holding it and holding it and holding it.
Yeah.
And you think you're not holding it long enough, and then you hold it for a few more seconds. And they go through their paces regarding cleanliness, not spreading germs and stuff. They give you a swab to hold the sample, and they put it in this little deposit box next to it or whatever. They instruct you to wipe everything down when you do, and it's not as bad, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Sure, because
It's
those
good to have something crammed up your.
Sure, because the early videos looked really uncomfortable. So
Sure.
it sounds like from what you're saying that it's gotten a little better, and that's good. Well, good luck. I hope you're negative.
Me too.
Yeah, because I don't know about you. I am so fucking done with this quarantine shit. I'm actually ready to kind of get back to the office and get away from these kids for at least a little bit. But yeah,
same here,
hopefully.
man.
Sorry.
I'm done looking at the same walls I see every day. I love my wife, but man, I know she's tired of me, and I'm actually starting to get these weird habits and tics where I just want to annoy the shit out of her. And,
Yeah.
She's in the middle of our call today, and I'm harumping and commenting under my breath under everything, and she'll stare at me around the monitor just to let me know that she heard me. So
now,
I'm pushing my limits.
Have you done the thing where she's on a Zoom call and you're behind the computer, so in her peripheral vision just doing something you shouldn't be doing, whether it's kind of
Oh,
dancing around or maybe
I
showing a
wish I
ball.
could. Like she's backed up pretty much to like
Oh,
the
sure.
china cabinet, and but I have like little in the middle of like one of her major meetings, I will sneeze just
Oh,
uncontrollably,
oh
and
boy,
she'll have to be like, "Oh, that's my husband." You know, it
not
sounds like a
great.
dog, and it's out of the blue. So
Yeah. Well, that's yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to get back. Well, Charlie, I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm glad you're here. In a way, I'm glad that we ended up waiting a day because, like I said, we have huge breaking news that happened over the last couple days that we'll get to in a little bit. But first, let's talk about what we've been playing. And I'll go ahead and go first. I believe you went first last week, and plus I don't have that much this week. As far as old games that I've been continuing to play, I've been playing a ton of Rocket League. Um, Rocket League is very quickly going up my list of games, my favorite games of the generation in general. I just have so much fun playing it. I don't think it'll knock off Red Dead, but it's like top three getting there. Played a little bit of PUBG. I don't know why. I I don't know why. I got a win. That's probably why. I
yeah,
don't know, man. Like I said
you're
on
gonna make
our
Josh right. You know that.
I know, but the no H1Z1's still a worse game. But like it I talked about this a lot when we talked about it for on our game survey that we did. I believe that would have been from the first episode. This would have come up. It's the game that sucks the most, but I just can't not play. There's something. So they finally put out that patch for controller, fixing the controls for Hyperscape, the BR from Ubisoft. So I got in there and I played for. No, you're wrong, Josh. I played for about 45 minutes. Probably played 3 or 4 games. The controls are better.
Okay.
I think that game has passed me. It's passed me by. I just
Mm,
the learning curve for that game appears to be such that I'm already way behind, and I just don't think I'm gonna catch back up. I've been playing with our friend Nick, and he kind of feels the same way. Like we want to like that game a lot. We want to. It's just it's the learning curve is such that we just will never catch up with everybody. So I think we are done with Hyperscape, and that makes me sad because I think that game had a lot of promise. So that'll probably be the last time we talk about Hyperscape. Um,
wow.
the new game that I've been playing, which is it's not a new game, it's a game, and in fact it's not a game that is new to me, but I picked it back up after a few years. Is actually a mobile game. It is called New Star Soccer. And what that is it's basically a player sim. You essentially create a player, and kind of like some of the or not franchise mode, but like franchise player modes that we've seen lately. You only control the plays that you are actually a part of. So like in Madden, if you're a wide receiver, you only play those plays that you're in. Same.
Yeah, FIFA has something like
Yeah,
that.
FIFA is kind of the same way. And so basically, you'll be in a game, and it'll just be a scoreboard, and it'll be like, so and so sets up a pass, and it's shot, and they missed. But then it'll come to, oh, Barrett has an opportunity, and then it'll flash up the actual playing field, and you have to either pass, shoot, dribble, things like that. I don't know if it's fun, but it's one of those mobile games that you're laying in bed and you play like 5 games and you just kind of tick the numbers up. Um, I think as far as gameplay, there's not a ton of it. Um, I don't know what else to kind of compare it to in terms of a mobile game. But it's like most of your mobile games these days. You kind of play it while you're going to the bathroom or laying in bed, and it's just something that's kind of fun. The
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 commode console.
the microtransactions are not great. Um, you can drink these energy drinks to raise your energy back up. They give you like one or two to start, but then they're like, hey, you have to spend coins on them. Well, you get coins very slowly. Well, when you obviously you don't have enough coins, it's like, hey, you want to give us $2? You can get your energy back up to full so you can play the next game. So it's not great on that side of it. It's actually changed developer hands a couple times, which is weird, but it's not. I'm not going to sit here and say you should download it like you recommended very highly of Retro Bowl, which I still have not played yet. But
So good.
that's what I played, and so that's all I've been playing. Charlie, I'm going to hand it over to you. I have to run to my bedroom. It's going to take me 10 seconds, so I'm going to let you talk. I gotta grab something, and I apologize,
All right.
everybody. So ready, Charlie? What have you been playing? Ready, set, go!
All right, Mitch's microphone. So as you guys know, I've been a little bit sick, a little bit under the weather lately. Again, last week played a little NCAA 14. Played my first two games. It took me a little bit to get my legs underneath me. That game is a lot of fun. College football starting and everything, hitting its stride right now. It's a good time to jump in if you can find a copy of that sucker. It's a great game. Like, I know there were some complaints about it because it was too much like 13, but I didn't play 13, and this one, hits my particular heartstrings because I love college football. I'm going to miss college football this year and what it normally is. But whatever. I'm capturing the magic through my Xbox 360. So,
quick. Sorry, I have a quick question about NCAA 14. And you kind of mentioned the previous one, 13.
Yeah.
If I wanted to play college football game, obviously 14 is the last one. It's probably the best one in a long time since probably our heyday.
Yeah.
If I was like, hey, NCAA 13 is only like $15, and I really want to play college football, is that worth it, or do you think I would get bored with it because it's maybe not as good as 14? I guess what I'm saying is I really want to play college football, but I don't want to pay $90 for it.
Yeah. I mean, if you can find like 13, it was a hit. And because 14 was so much like it, that's why 14 kind of received some, mixed reviews regarding it. If you want to play with Baylor at the height of its powers, 14 is your pick, but if you're just jumping in from a vacuum, I wouldn't have a problem jumping into either.
Okay.
Jumping into, say, something like 3, that might be a little bit of a leap there.
Sure.
But the difference between 1 year, there might be. I don't know if they had introduced yet the customization of conferences with 13. I know they did that with 14. It was a big deal because of all the the conference interchangeability happening between all the teams. And so they had put that in there, and there's customizable settings that you can do in regards to how you can make certain bowl games, etc. So, I mean, it's just, there's a little more in 14, but 13, 13 is your stock and 14 is your premium brand. So,
like, I kind of just want to play college football. I don't know that I want to go through franchise mode or any of that stuff. Like, I kind of just want to play college football, and so it sounds like that if I can find 13 for obviously way less.
Yeah, and Mean Green is right. 14 introduced the coaching tree, where it's it's a lot more of an RPG type element that's been put into play.
Right.
Where you can make your coach, better on the road, or in regards to recruiting, you can make them better from that aspect. Just little advancements here and there in that perspective, but the gameplay wise, when it comes down to the core, 13 is pretty much like 14.
Okay, cool. All right, fair enough. Sorry about that.
My voice, man.
Yeah, no,
it's going to be in and out all night.
Hey, no, you're fine, man. Do what you got to do.
So, Playing NCAA 14. Obviously, you guys know I've been playing a lot of Doom 2. My favorite game of all time. I think this Sunday I'm going to beat it because we're on level 28 and I've polished off the hidden levels, during our existential crisis that we had about 2 episodes ago. So I've been playing a lot of that, and I've also picked up the game. So I played this on my phone. It's called Among Us. It's this new big I Spy game that's pretty much hit, PC or iOS or phone devices, and it's really really cool. Like, I mean, there are so many games out there that you know require teamwork, but everyone is pretty much on an island. Like, if you ever played the game I Spy in summer camp, where basically a person is, well, I don't know if it's called this in your circle, but we played I Spy in my summer camp, and there was one guy who was the spy, and there was another guy who was the killer. And the killer basically would wink at people in the room, would just walk throughout the room, and the spy would have to figure out who the killer was before the killer killed everybody. And this is pretty much the same premise here, is that, you're picked in a room about 10 people, or it could be less, just depending on how the game starts.
4 to 10
and you're
people.
on a ship. I'm sorry?
4 to 10 people.
Yeah.
That's how many people.
And you're given tasks to perform, and basically you're trying to basically launch the ship or whatever, set it on its destination. Whereas there is an imposter who is designated at the very beginning of the game, and they have to do everything that they can within their power to stop the people from completing all the tasks and launching the ship or setting its ship back toward its destination. It's really, really cool because you don't know who it is, and like the tasks that you're like meant to go do, they're menial tasks or whatever, but it's like busy work that you do, like they're little puzzle games that you have to do and perform to complete. And there's this sense of tension that's going on because while the game is in front of you, you can see your little guy kind of in the background, and there's motion going on between other players, and you don't know if the killer just kind of like ventures on into your room and just like takes you out. And obviously the killer has its advantage regarding like where it can go throughout the ship. Like, they can traverse through the grates, and it's really really cool to see like the system. It's almost like Clue, where a person will like come across a dead body and they can call an emergency meeting, and basically like through a chat they can kind of like come through a what's that called? I can't think of what that's called. I've lost my words. Process of elimination.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh. Yeah. They can go through a process. We can edit that, back and just go straight to process of elimination.
Right.
And discover who the person is and get basically kicked off through airlock and just jettisoned out into space. And a lot of times, if you don't know who it is, you just skip your vote. There's a vote that gets cast. And there was this one instance where it was literally left to 3 people, myself, and then there was 2 other people. And the killer called the meeting, which was genius.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, hey, da-da-da-da-da. And like, obviously I'm like, in the chat, like, who is it? Like, where did you find it and stuff like that. And they're asking, really, really quick and precise questions, because there's a time limit to having this meeting. And when no one like really comes to a consensus, it skips or whatever, and it just like continues the game. Well, then the killer just proceeded to continue on. Like, it was basically a basic Mexican standoff where the killer had pointed at me, which I was like, I'm not the killer, so I pointed it at the other person who had pointed it at the person who called the meeting. And when there was no decision made, it skipped and went back to the game. Well, the killer just went and killed both of us, and that was it.
Wow.
It's fun to get into. There are instances where you try to get into the game and you get locked out because the game's either started or your phone isn't pinging at a high enough rate. But honestly, as difficult and as frustrating it is to try to get into a game, it's very easy to get into a game.
Yeah.
Like, you can just like get back out, select another one, get back out, select another one. You're starting. So
I've got two questions,
yeah,
and we'll see if we have follow ups after that, and then an interesting little tidbit afterwards. So when you're playing on phone, I was looking at the download, and it's free to download. And one of the
yeah.
things it talks about is that if you download it, you don't pay anything. There's ads and stuff. Are the ads
Yeah.
really intrusive? Are they
Oh
bad?
God, no.
No. Okay.
God, no.
All right.
When you die, there's an ad. Like, it's not going to be during the game.
Okay.
It's not going
That's
to be
good.
during your. Yeah, you're not going to call a meeting and then all of a sudden, oh, wait for a 30-second ad to continue the game.
Okay.
That would be kind of shitty. No, it's
That's
when you end the game, all of a sudden it'll go into an ad,
okay. All right. That's
and
cool.
that's it.
That's good to know. And second, it's from the streaming side of it. Josh put in a thing in the chat that it's got 300,000 viewers on Twitch. This has become a Twitch sensation.
Hmm.
And so I don't know if you've played with people that are streaming or if you've just kind of played on your own. So I know one of the things it does at the very beginning is it tells you if you're the killer or if you're just a regular old person. So
Yeah.
I guess my question would be is that you, as the streamer, you probably have to be pretty on your game to make sure that you're covering up your screen at the beginning, make sure it doesn't get out, and also if you're playing, like say we're all playing together, us, me, you, our friends, we have to trust each other that the rest of you guys are not watching the stream
Yeah.
because obviously that gives it away either way.
Yeah.
Because I've been kind of checking out this game and thinking that could be a good thing to kind of mess around with not only us but viewers and everything like that. So yeah, it sounds like you have to be, as the streamer, you've got to be really on your overlays and make sure that you're not giving or at the very least you trust your friends not to be watching the
Sure.
stream while you did it. But yeah, that game seems really cool.
I'm wondering because a lot of so when you choose your player, obviously it's all color coded. You get to pick whatever color you want to be, and then if you want to, you can customize your little player by putting a hat on top of them or anything like that.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could set it where you put in a filter on your overlay and you make it black and white. So when your viewers are watching it, even though you're allowed to stream it, there's there's less of an endangerment of say, hey,
of the rest of
a
the
viewer
people.
watching your stream, oh, hey, I
Yeah.
can just see what he's doing. I mean, there's going to be that thing where oh, he's in, the command center, so I know where he's at. But
Right.
there is a sense of trust that goes along with it.
It's gotta
So
be,
I haven't been
yeah.
playing too much regarding playing other streamers. I just kind of jump in and let the game come to me.
Also, I feel like if you're playing with random people, that's
Yeah.
even more difficult because that means you're trusting randos to turn the stream off while they're playing against you. Because I've been seeing a lot of, hey, I'm playing Among Us with viewers, and it's like, but they can see what you're doing. So yeah, that seems like I bet you there's some challenge there in to get that right.
Yeah.
Charlie, I don't know if you saw it, but there was an article today in Kotaku about this game, Among Us, and they talked to the developers, which it's actually 3 people. It's only 3 people that created this game. This game has actually been out for 2 years. And they, at the beginning, had no aspirations of this being a streamable game. They were just making this game. They put it out on iOS. There was not much fanfare. In fact, in South Korea is where it got big, and that's where they got a lot of their feedback. Well, they said all of a sudden, 2 months ago, they started seeing the numbers on Twitch, and all of a sudden, this game that they put out as a little freebie game all of a sudden is one of the biggest games on Twitch. It's in the top 5 consistently. It's incredible. It's a good article. You should read it. These 3 people seem like really earnest, really really nice people that get it. They get it. And they talked about how they are going to work on a new one. It's still a long ways away, but it seems like these guys really understand that. They understand the success, and it's not getting to their head. So that's really cool to see. Did you play anything else, Charlie?
That is it, my friend. I mean, I played some Mario Kart Tour.
Mm-hmm.
just passing the time, still enjoying that, not spending any of my money on that, but
No.
enjoying the courses for what they are.
Well, that's
I
good.
plugged in my excuse me again, my Wii U. Enjoyed a little
Oh, that thing.
Steam World. It still runs great, man.
Sure.
I played a little Steam World Dig. I played a little Mario Maker, the original. There's still
Ooh.
people making games for that thing,
Oh,
and
sure.
I had a lot of fun. Just it's grown so much. So since even after the sequel had come out, and so it's cool to see like what more you can do on that game. I'm like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
my levels are now like considered tame compared to the other levels that are out there, and
Sure.
even playing the people like apparently like when they've had events that I guess Nintendo like put their trademark stamp on certain levels to play, and
Yeah.
like you follow those people and you're like, oh my god, like these professional makers are making great levels and it's still fun to play. So
Yeah, that's great.
again, I'm still looking forward to getting a Switch and
Yeah, I was about to
hopefully
ask,
getting a
is
second
there
game.
any have you I guess you haven't found one or really.
I haven't had a chance to look, man.
Yeah, that
It's one of those things
sucks.
where if I just come across it,
That's all
we'll
you could
see.
do. That's all you could do. Because unless you're gonna sit there and camp out at a Target every day, I mean, you're kind of just who knows. Maybe one day you'll just be inside of a Target, and then all of a sudden you look down in that case and you're like, oh shit, I'll take that,
Yep.
and you'll be happy because it's a fantastic system. All right, that's what we've been playing. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get to what I feel is the most important segment of our week. It's a big week, folks, and that, of course, is the news. And ladies and gentlemen, it is a huge week of news, and I believe, Charlie, you're going to start us off with the biggest piece of news. Talk about Marvel's Adventures.
Very sarcastically, the biggest piece of news. Well, I mean, it's not the biggest piece of news, let's just say. But like, so basically, the Marvel's Avengers that video game came out, and apparently the feedback is coming in very, very slow and methodically. And so far, the reviews are like pretty average to pretty good. And like, I don't know why, but like for some reason, to a lot of people, that feels really, really disappointing. Well, where the MCU has gone, like the movie industry, MCU, and where that entire like Disney money making machine is going to take it. Anything that is not perfect or close to it is going to feel very, very disappointing. When it comes to this game, gosh, I've been so on the fence in regards to getting this game because one, it's a full price game right now. It's $60. Just, and these days you just can't really do that unless it's just like for something that's just you just know it's going to be a 10 or right under it.
Yeah,
But from my understanding, like if you are a diehard comic book fan, you're going to love this game.
sure.
If you are an average comic book fan or you just love the movies or whatever, apparently this game is a lot of fun.
Okay.
This game, however, is not without its shortcomings. Apparently there's some issues regarding, some of like the fighting. It can get very, very repetitive. Um, a lot of the plot beats tend to drag on a little bit longer. But in regards, this is basically your summer movie, where it's like, let's not look for, an Oscar-winning performance here. If you just want fun, if you just want popcorn fun, this is a game to definitely get.
So I guess because you and I talked about this leading up to the release of the game. We actually talked about it many times, many episodes.
Yeah,
It doesn't feel like a disappointment from the hype ratio of what we saw going in. We both looked at it. We're like,
sure.
it looks fun, but it doesn't look like this barn burner that when it was first announced, we thought it
To
was going to
steal
be.
your line,
Yeah.
this game is fine.
Right. Yeah. And so it sounds like the majority of the disappointment is kind of like you said, coming from the comic book / movie side of it. You expect
Yeah,
essentially perfection out of the movies, the comics, and everything that goes around with it. And so when something comes out that is Marvel related and it is not that,
yeah,
because I think the thing is that I've seen plenty of people say it's fine and that it's
Yeah.
good. I have not seen a ton of this game is incredible. Like, there's not a
Yeah.
lot of that.
I've heard that from like hardcore comic book readers,
Sure.
and
There's going to be
even
some.
those who like aren't trying to follow it to the T regarding like its lore, or whether it, whether this person can beat up this person in like a fight scenario or such like that. The fact that they get to play like their favorite characters, they're really, really enjoying that from that
Sure.
perspective. But like you said, that niche is very, very skinny.
And now I will say that I feel like there's been a lot of positivity to kind of not necessarily the story overall, but they've enjoyed a lot of the beats of the story. So again, it's not like anybody's sitting here saying it's garbage or anything like that. Real quick, let me interrupt. Thank you so much, McStreamy. You're the best. I love
Yeah.
you so much. Appreciate you, pal. But yeah, it doesn't. It just doesn't. It's one of those. Oh, it's a 7. Like, it's one of those games where if it was $40, I think people would be less disappointed with it.
Sure.
And kind of what we were talking about last week, Charlie, when we get to Black Friday and this thing is $30, that's where you pounce.
Yeah.
That's where someone like you gets in on it, and maybe me, depending on, kind of how you feel about it and stuff too. But yeah, it's been a really weird kind of hype train for that game. Obviously people were excited when it was first announced at E3 last year, or what I've lost track, I guess last year. And then every time it kind of showed, everybody was just kind of like, okay, hopefully it ends up good. And then it never really kind of got there. But
Sure. Well, you're talking about a game that literally came off of the throes of Avengers Endgame and the resounding success of Marvel's Spider-Man. And even when that came out at E3, what they showed, I understand that some like companies, they want to show all the glitz and glamour, but they don't want to give away everything.
yeah,
Sometimes that can rub off on the gamers, as especially the gaming community, as to like, what is this?
exactly.
Are you trying to show us, like, what kind of game are you trying to show us?
Yeah.
Because it's different than the movie theaters. Like moviegoers, they don't want to see like everything. Like, they want to be teased a little bit. This was a teaser when it came out last year. It teased, but it teased the wrong way in my opinion.
Well,
Where it was just like, here's this, and then you're like, okay, what is this?
Because that first teaser was all CG, and then when they finally showed it for the first time, the gameplay, people were like, that's not exactly what I expected this game to be. Yeah, and I don't know. It's weird to sit here and talk about this in a negative way when it's not really been received negatively. It's just when you have Marvel on the cover or Avengers on the cover, people expect Endgame, Infinity War, and that whole entire series of movies except for Thor: Dark World.
It's got to be a last place.
There's got to be a last
that
place.
Movie is not that bad.
There's got to be a last place, but they all can't be. It all can't be Thor Ragnarok. But
sure.
You got anything else on the biggest news of the week, Avengers?
That's it, man. Like, the ground floor is you have the podium, sir.
So the actual So
the actual biggest news.
1A of the biggest news of the week is last Thursday, Nintendo kind of surprised us. I didn't know this was coming until basically it was kind of here. They did a Nintendo Direct, and they announced a whole bunch of new Mario stuff. It is the 35th anniversary of the release of the original Super Mario Brothers on the NES. And so they did a kind of a big blowout of a bunch of new Mario stuff. Some of it has been rumored already, and some of it was stuff that just kind of came out of nowhere that no one was really expecting. The first of which was the Super Mario Brothers Game & Watch. That was announced. That one's coming out November 13th. And so what it is, it kind of looks like the old Game & Watches, but I guess for people that may not necessarily know much about what Game & Watch kind of was before, think the Tiger handheld video games in a way. It kind of looks like that. Only this one's kind of a little bit bigger. It's in color. And it's got the full version of Super Mario Brothers on it, and it has the full version of the Super Mario Brothers 2 Lost Levels. It also has a really neat clock that they kind of talked about how there's like secrets within the clock that you can mess with. It's a neat little thing. I don't know if I'll get it. It's $50. Charlie, I don't know if you actually saw what that thing kind of looked like or not, but it's one of those novelty items. It's kind of for a collector. It's really neat looking. It's in full color. It's got cool. It does have the old school Mario Game and Watch, LCD Tiger Games looking thing. So it's a neat little piece of nostalgia. Kind of more up your alley, Charlie, because this game was actually a Wii U game. They're porting over Super Mario 3D World, and much like they have done with some of the other ports they've added some new content. There's an extra story called Bowser's Fury. That's coming out on February 12th. It looks like it's a nice upscaled version of a very well received Mario game from the Wii U. Again, it's just another Wii U game that's going to get an opportunity to finally shine. Since the Wii U did not have the install base. So that's cool. Did you play Super Mario 3D World?
I did not, and from what I'm understanding, I really, really regret not doing it. I think it's still on sale on the Wii U, the Nintendo store. I've actually looked into it because it's only $20, and I'm like,
yeah,
it's a maybe. Might have to move some stuff around.
yeah. It's supposed to be a very good Mario game. So that's cool. Like I said,
like the cat thing. I was like,
I don't either.
That?
I don't like that much.
I've heard really, really good things about that thing, but
yeah, I've heard it looks like a very good 3D Mario game. But yeah, the cat stuff, I don't know. So then that's been rumored for a while, so that's not a big surprise. Now, probably to me, this is the biggest surprise and kind of the thing that has me the most excited. So last year they put out a free battle royale game called Tetris 99, and basically it's Battle Tetris, and it is badass. It's so much fun. It's so good, and basically you play Tetris, and as you clear lines, the more lines that you clear, you can send those lines to other people, and basically you're battling each other. Well, they have
play that.
That should be one of your first things that you get. Spend the $20 for a year of the Nintendo Online service and get Tetris 99. It is so much fun. And on top of that, it's a great Tetris game. Yeah. Well, so they announced a Battle Royale Super Mario Brothers game called Super Mario Brothers 35. And what this is that you and 34 other people are playing Super Mario Brothers. You're on your own map.
That's so cool.
And as you're playing, as you kill enemies, you send those enemies to other people. You could send it to random people. You could send it to, quote, the leader, or you can target specific people. And basically the premise is that you need to be the last person standing. And I don't know this for sure, but can you just fucking play the entire Super Mario Brothers? And if you can you beat the game? I don't know.
With 35 other people, I don't know how that's going to work.
The answer is 99.9999% will never be able to do that. But there are people that are pixel perfect at Mario. And you would think that
guys.
Yeah, you would think that they would probably be able to do.
Nintendo finally made a BR.
Well, it's their second one because Tetris 99 is considered a BR game. Again, Tetris 99. If you have a Nintendo Switch and you have the online service, Tetris 99 is great. We're ending this podcast early, and I'm going to go play Tetris 99. So, but no, this sounds great. And probably the best thing, October 1st. We're about 3 weeks away from this coming out. Now, here's the weird thing. And we're going to get into this when we get to another one of these. It's only available until March 31st.
so messed
we
up.
can kind of get into the shittiness of that when we get to the next that last
Bullshit.
part. It's a really weird thing. I don't quite understand why. What happens if this thing
There's
fucking
your haves
blows
and
up?
have-nots.
I don't know.
I'm,
So, but this looks cool. Like I said, out of all the announcements, this is the one where I was like, well, one, it just seemed like the most fun, but also again, it's Nintendo seems to be doing a lot better lately of kind of thinking outside the box with some of their stuff and saying, let's do something interesting with the stuff that we already have, which kind of takes us to the next thing, which Charlie, you and I actually talked about this a little bit offline. It's the Mario Kart Home Circuit. This is an augmented reality Mario Kart game. It comes with an actual cart that has a camera on top of it, and it links with your Switch, and you map out the course on your floor, and
yeah,
you actually
using gates.
using gates, and you play on your Switch while the car is actually going around on your floor. It is the craziest looking thing I've ever seen. One of the craziest things, and the only problem is, Charlie, which we actually talked about this, is how long until the kid breaks the shit, or
Oh
your
yeah.
your dog decides to hop on it, or something along those lines.
I'm looking forward to seeing videos of that, like with the
Yes.
dog or the cat trying to chase the damn thing. I'm not looking forward to my son wanting that thing, and then all of a sudden he thinks it's one of his trains, and then
And
just
tries to hop on top
immediately
of
just
it. Um,
running it through or
it
stepping on it.
I'm not for sure. I'm not for certain, but I believe you can buy both Mario and Luigi carts.
Yeah.
So my only thing about this is I wonder if this is going to be one of those things where it kind of loses its luster very quickly. You play it like 5, 6 times, and then you're like, I kind of just want to play Mario Kart on my Switch. I don't want to have to set up all this extra stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's one of those things where, because who knows how much it's going to cost. I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't see a price, but if it's like $80, that's a lot of money for something you may not play a lot of. And then you have to have space to do it too.
Honestly, and that really is predicated upon the audience who receives this. I can see a whole bunch of kids getting together if you have a closed circuit of friends, who want to turn their house into a huge derby or
Yeah.
whatever. And those videos you see where like I'm gonna put this ball in the in the this golf ball in the cup, but I'm gonna have this entire array of like, you know, what's those machines called again? I'm trying to remember, where it makes the marbles and it knocks down this thing and it goes through a different room, and there's a specific name for that.
Oh, what is that?
I swear we're losing all our words right now.
Geez, oh God, I just had it and it's
Chat, what
gone.
is that called?
I just had it and it's gone again. Is it the is it
Um,
the is it the Japanese ones?
there's a
What am I
specific
thinking?
name for it. Anyway, I could
Pachinko?
see marbles.
Yeah, it's called Marbles on Stream Fridays
Yeah.
here on Team Llama
No,
School.
I could
No, I'm
see
just kidding.
like a whole bunch of kids, setting up like elaborate, I mean, it goes from simple as
Well,
like a simple O track to setting something super elaborate around, and like obviously posting that on YouTube and stuff. Your imagination goes as far
Pachinko.
as you want to take it with that thing. So
Well, and also it's gonna also be limited on the scope of what Nintendo will allow you to do. Who knows how elaborate you can actually get? I mean, it's interesting. I don't know if it's something that I'm gonna get, but it's a very cool thing. Again, it's just a kind of a neat outside the box type thing that Nintendo is doing. So that's cool. What has become kind of a usual thing for Nintendo the last kind of year or so is when they do these directs, they always tend to have at least one thing that they show that drops the same day. And
it's a
for
Rube Goldberg machine, by the way.
is that what it's called? Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
Sorry.
Pachinko is kind of a casino-like game that
Yeah.
originated out of Japan. Konami makes a lot of them. They don't make video games anymore. They make pachinko machines. Fuck you, Metal Gear. We're making pachinko machines. So like I said, Nintendo usually announces at least one thing where they just all of a sudden they're like, hey, it's also out today. And that item was the original Super Mario All-Stars for the Super Nintendo was announced and released same day, last Thursday for the Switch Online SNES software. Super Mario All-Stars is a fantastic game. I still believe that it is the greatest remaster in the history of video games. I played some of that on my stream the other day and had a really, really angry moment towards the end of that game. It's a fantastic game. Check out my clips if you want to see
it was
me.
so good.
Oh, it's so good. It's not as good. It's not as good as Ryan's Rocket League clip, but it's very good. Ryan will love that I brought that up again. So yes, that's cool. That was, Super Mario All Stars is on the Switch now, so it's awesome. It's a great game. So speaking of Super Mario All Stars, what's that?
You can make a simple jump.
You were right. My reaction was really good.
Oh yeah,
It was really good. No! Oh my god. So the last thing, so this was long rumored. This is not a surprise whatsoever. They announced Super Mario 3D All Stars, and what that is that it is a remaster of Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. They were fully remastered, up-resed. They'll be at 40 frames per second. They're going to have the entire soundtracks for all three games that you can play in the game whenever you want. That is out in 10 days, September 18th. And that's another one of those where it's only available for a limited time until March 31st. Before we get to the actual games, that March 31st thing is really weird. I don't understand that because this game and the Mario Brothers 35 are going to be major hits.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to monetize that as much as possible?
Yeah, it's weird it's stopping at the end of Q1, so...
And especially the Mario Brothers 35 thing, it's like when you get to March 31st and then when it ticks over to April 1st, it's just not going to be available. You're not going to be able to play it. That's just, I don't... As much...
Maybe the next Switch is going to include all of those.
Right. So that's a weird thing. So back to the actual game itself. Super Mario 64 revolutionized 3D platforming. It's a fantastic game. It's one of the few Nintendo 64 games that actually still holds up. Super Mario Sunshine is a game that I loved when I played it. I have not necessarily played it much since then. I'm not sure that game holds up. So here's what I wonder about that. If they fix the camera and some of the controls for the flood water cannon...
Oh, the camera.
I think that game can be good because I think I there's a reason why I got all 120 stars in that game. Like there's something about that game. It was beautiful on the GameCube, and it's still the graphics still hold up very well.
So, really good water.
Oh, it's just some of the best water. Only the best water. But if they do any work to the camera, any work to the control, I think that could be a good game, but they didn't say anything about working on that. So if it's just Super Mario Sunshine, I'm less excited about that part. Really exciting specifically for me because this is kind of a blind spot is Super Mario Galaxy. I played a little bit of it, liked it, but I didn't get very far in it. I really want to play that game, and I really want to finish that game. Something you kind of brought up the other day. It's a little odd they didn't bring Galaxy 2.
Which is so good. All I've heard...
I know.
I didn't play Mario Galaxy 1, but all I've heard is when I got Galaxy 2 is that it does everything Galaxy 1 does and so much better.
Yeah, and
it improves on all its short failings, and there's Yoshi in it and all that stuff. So
you know what's weird about that? So at the very end of the Direct, they did this thing where they did kind of a montage of the Mario music throughout the history of the Mario games. They did not include Galaxy 2. They skipped over. They went from Galaxy to Mario Odyssey. So and it's weird because they showed the Super Mario Land games from the Game Boy, which are not mainline in a way. I don't know. Like, it was weird. They kind of
Did
just
they show Mario too?
Super Mario Bros. 2. Yeah, they sure did.
That's weird.
No, they didn't show Lost Levels, but again, I think they were showing all the American ones. But yeah, it was a little
America.
weird that Galaxy 2 was not in this collection, and it's weird that they kind of were just like, yeah, it's a game, but we're not really. I don't know. So overall, fantastic stuff. I mean, I love Super Mario. I mean, Super Mario World's my favorite game of all time. So, like, just more Mario is fine with me. I can't wait till they make a sequel to Odyssey, whether that's an actual true sequel to Odyssey or just another 3D Mario. Give me all the Mario, and I will be getting that 3D All Stars probably next Friday. I'm probably going to get it first day. I'm really excited for it. So that's it for that. In what might be even more exciting news, Microsoft blew it out.
Oh, it just keeps
We
piling up and piling up, man.
we finally have all the information for Microsoft's launch. The long rumored Xbox Series S, I guess the smaller, not as powerful version, was actually leaked and then basically immediately announced. And
the arcade.
right. So on Monday, the Monday night, the video leaked, and then on yesterday, Xbox confirmed it. And so what the Series X is, it's a much smaller. They claim it's their smallest Xbox they've ever made, which is cool. Which is cool. I'm not sure I love the design. I don't know if I like the big speaker looking thing. I've seen some really good memes though. Seen some really.
The Say Anything meme is the biggest one.
Oh, it's so great. I saw one that someone put it next to a dryer, so it's the washer in the washer and dryer combo. Someone of course did a minion. That's right, Nick. It's the baby brother of the Series X. So what the Series S is that it is obviously it's not as powerful as the Series X. It's basically the entry level next gen console for Microsoft. It's not true 4K. It is 1440p, which is of course 2K, but it's upscaled to 4K.
What?
I'll get to that. I'll get to that in just a moment. Why they did this, and I think it's very clear why they did this. It's not true. It's not true 4K. It is 4K up res. It looks like it's kind of that half step between Xbox One X and the Series X. The biggest thing, it's all digital. The biggest thing is that it's only $299.
Sure.
So you can play next generation content at 120 frames per second. Obviously, much better than what things look like now. They say everything will be 60 frames and up to 120 frames for $299. So I think the biggest reason why they have this version that's not true 4K is that 4K is still in the minority of televisions. It's in the very, very drastic minority. 4K is kind of where HD television was, kind of back in the early 2000s. And so,
sure.
and not only that, a lot of people that do have 4K, it's not true 4K.
4K.
And so now they also did go ahead and fully announce that the Series X, the big boy, is going to be $499, which is exactly in line what everybody thought. November 10th. We are 2 months away. 2 months from tomorrow, the next generation will start. They are also doing this thing that they kind of started with the Xbox One, but they really didn't promote it much, but they're going heavy on this. They are doing what's called Xbox Access. And what this is that it's essentially a payment plan, kind of like you could do with your phones now, where you pay a certain amount a month, and then once you're done with it, you own the phone. It's the same with this, but this seems like a really cool deal where for the Series S, You pay $25 a month for 24 months, and you also get Xbox Ultimate Game Pass along with it, which is $15 on its own. If you combine all of that together, you actually end up saving $50 over the total cost of the console if you bought it outright and the Game Pass. Now for the Series X, it's $35 a month, and it comes to savings. I think it's like between $20 and $40. I kind of teased this earlier with you, Charlie. I am all in. I will be getting one of these. I haven't fully committed to either one.
X.
So I'm leaning towards the S, and for two reasons. One, I currently don't have a television right now.
Jeez, dude.
But also, I don't stream in 4K, and I won't stream in 4K. So why do I need that? So pre-orders begin September 22nd. And I will be front and center for that. So going back to Game Pass this morning, Game Pass announced that they are bringing in the EA Access / EA Play service into Game Pass at no extra charge. EA Play includes 60 EA games from their library. I mean, everything from The Sims to Mass Effect, FIFA, Maddens. Now, you won't be able to get on there and immediately play the new Madden or the new FIFA, but they usually put those out on that service, within a few months of when those games come out. So basically, the best value in gaming just got even more valuable, and it's no extra cost. And that's coming. It's coming this holiday. I would assume probably right around the launch. NFL Street is not on there. I'm sad to report, Nico. I know it's a sad thing, but this really puts pressure on Sony. I'm really interested to see how they react with their pricing. Because, they've got two consoles, but really the only difference between the two consoles is that one is digital and one isn't. So it's going to be interesting. Like, it cannot be more than $500. They cannot make that mistake again. But
I mean, they can.
But they better have learned from PlayStation 3.
They can always justify it by saying, well, this will be true 4K, and like we have the exclusives, that you want to play, that gamers want to play.
The exclusives is the only thing, because the Xbox Series X is true 4K as well, so they can't really boast on that.
Sure. But that's what I'm saying, though.
Exactly. But can they do it for $399? Like, would they be willing to take that loss to basically... Because if they put it at $399, they will win the holiday. There's no doubt. If it's $499, I think there's no doubt Microsoft wins the holiday.
I've heard that $449 is even a reach. Mm-hmm. So,
Well, the thing is, seems like it's at $499 for the full version with disc, and then $449 for the discless. That's probably where it's going to be, and that's fine. But yeah, it just depends on if they want to strike first or play the long game. Which the answer is they should play the long game, because the lack of exclusives for Xbox, Halo being who knows how far off. Yeah, having a $299 new console that can play next gen games is going to win them the holiday, probably no matter what. Yeah. But what's that going to get them later if there's not the games?
Well, especially when crossplay is becoming so prevalent now across games, and like people can jump over, say like, oh, hey, I'm going to get the cheaper console and still get to play with all my friends or whatever, because we play this particular game. Unless the exclusive by Sony comes out with like if it comes out with, I mean, I think it's going to come out with the Spider-Man game from what I understand, but that's still not even enough to carry the
probably not
the torch,
because Ratchet
that's going to be like $499.
Because Ratchet is next year, and And some of the other games they've been showing, I think, are next year as well. Which also, speaking of launch date, November 10th, Ubisoft announced that the new Assassin's Creed game is coming out the same day. So people will have Assassin's Creed to play that day. So that's going to be on everything, but also it'll be interesting to see what Sony puts as their date. They're obviously not going to do same day, but do they do it a week before? Do it a week after? I think they should do it a week after, because then it'll be more top of mind going into Black Friday.
Yeah. That's what I've heard, is that they're aiming directly at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We'll see.
They don't have to be out the same day. It's
yeah.
And I mean, fanboys are going to buy what they want. I mean, again, the reason why I lean Xbox is because more people I play with are there. That's really the only reason. If I had more people playing Sony, I would care about Sony more. But again, it goes back to the console war bullshit. It's like, why are we still doing this? They're all going to be great. They're both going to be amazing consoles. So, but it's cool that Microsoft has the kind of value in mind for the next generation. Big news. It's awesome. I didn't think I would be, but I am so excited. I'm so excited for the new consoles.
Well, it's good to hear you say that, man. I know you were on the fence about it's going to be a while until I get, because I never get the consoles first day and the new consoles first day. So
yeah, well, and I think
it's good to hear you be, fall on the other side of that fence.
A lot of it is that payment plan stuff. I think that's such a cool thing of them doing. And not only that, but they're not making it to where, you could do a payment plan, but by the end you're paying like $200 more. Like that, I wouldn't do that. That'd be bullshit. But the way they're doing it, where in the end you actually save money. I'm gonna have Game Pass anyway. So might as well save a little bit of money. So that's awesome. I can't wait to see what Sony does. Hopefully we'll get that maybe by next Tuesday. I hope. Because I don't know if news is going to come between now and then and anything else. We're done with news for the year, probably. It's all about the new releases. Which, speaking of that, Charlie, tell me about the new releases this week.
Well, if you have not sunk your teeth into the Kurt Schilling created game Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning, now is your chance. It came out on September 8th for the PC, PS4, and Xbox One.
Yesterday. And if you want some fun, go read that story. Go read the story of Kurt Schilling's old development studio. Have fun with that.
Oh, bloody sock and all.
Kingdoms of Amalur is a great game. It's a fantastic game.
Yeah, I remember playing the demo. By the way, 2021, bring demos back.
Hashtag bring demos back.
Yeah, I remember playing that game. I had a fun time doing it and stuff like that. Like, there's nothing I remember,
Oh yeah, it's memorable
from that game, but
it's not
it
a
was
10.
fun.
It's a good little RPG game, action RPG.
Yeah. Also coming out September 8th, as of this recording yesterday, The Sims 4 Journey to Batuu Star Wars Game Pack came out.
Yes.
I know a lot of people were excited for that sucker because it adds a whole new world to the Sims game, and it's Star Wars. Come on now. Like, the fact that your Star Wars can now talk in Sim speak,
great.
That this opens up a whole new can of worms regarding that thing, and heck, Star Wars makes money.
Well,
the Sims is going to make money.
Well, and one thing that Charlie, you and I always talk about when we're hanging out with each other, man, when will they release new content for The Sims? Which is funny because they get content all the time. But this is cool. Yeah, that's weird that they talk Simlish. It's all kind of like it's weird they talk in Lego.
I think they have supported this game longer than I've seen other
for sure.
Sims games.
Oh, for sure. And they support the shit out of all of them, but this one, people keep buying them. Tell me about.
I remember Nico Bambi. My cousin was all up into that Sim game. I don't know if she continues to play it or not, but
I used to love The Sims. I played
Lord.
I played Sims 1, 2, and online. They used to play the shit out of it. And Charlie, tell us about the release of the week.
Yeah, Hot Shot Racing. It's a 90s
what are we
arcade
doing?
Style racing game. I mean, it comes out on the 10th. Comes out on all consoles and PC. It's fast twitch racing.
Well, I think what happened, Charlie, is that we needed to have something else besides Kingdoms of Amalur, and you just picked one that sounded stupid. I think that's kind of what happened.
We were digging at the bottom of the barrel, my friend.
Um,
Like Madden came out, Marvel's Avengers came out. We're gonna start seeing things come out and trickling out at a fast, rapid pace after this. So, let's count our blessings that right now it's just kind of these games right now.
yeah. And well, that's the news. Yeah, the releases are going to be starting to come hot and heavy, especially as we get towards the end of September and we get into these new consoles. So that's new releases. That's the news. And ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get into the topic of the week. And before we get into the topic of the week, everybody hanging out in chat, first of all, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching us, guys. A lot of you are here every week, and we appreciate it very much. We're doing another segment of Let's Remember Some Games, and we want to get you guys actually involved. Charlie and I are going to give 3 or 4 of ours, and then we want you guys to throw out some games that maybe you'd like to have us talk about. And if we get any of those submissions that we've played, at least one of us has played, we'll talk about that. So get those ready. And so again, like the last time we did this, let's talk about some games. This is just games that we just want to talk about. They don't have to be great games. They don't even have to be good games. There's a couple of there's potentially some bad games on here. One in particular of mine. But let's remember some games. Charlie, let's remember a game from you.
Well, the first game I wanted to remember this week was a game called Guerrilla War. If you guys have ever played Ikari Warriors, it was a top-down game. It's 2 players. You basically just like fought your way through various maps. It was an overhead shooter. It was a fun game. Well, they came out with another game. Is based upon the guerrilla wars of in Cuba, and you actually get to play as oh my God, what's that dude's name who just died?
Which one?
The Cuban dictator.
Castro?
Yeah, Castro. Yeah.
I mean,
you get to play as Fidel Castro.
I think it was like 3 years ago, but yes.
Well, just died. I mean, everyone's unfortunately dying nowadays. But when I think of just died, within 5 years,
sure,
works for me. I mean, it was a fun game, and like even like going to the arcades, I would see this game all the time, and boy, that thing would suck quarters out of me because it was one of those again top-down shooters. You had a joystick with which you had a fire button and a grenade button. It worked on a octagonal direction, so you can go north, south, east, and west, and the other 4 directions. And it was a lot of fun. Like it was one of those games again, kind of like Cuphead or Gradius or any of those top-down shooters. You would do your damnedest to try to avoid the errant bullet that just comes out of nowhere and ends your day, ends your game, and you'd have to put another quarter in.
Is it bullet hell-ish? I mean, is it?
It can be, just depending on how well you're playing the game. There are obviously upgrades in the game where you can upgrade your machine gun to, a much better machine gun. You have a split gun. You have a split shot. You have a bazooka shot. You can jump into tanks all you want. There is a mechanism in the game where obviously if you save hostages, you get more points, and you can also shoot the hostages on accident and lose points. So
on accident, in quotes.
Yeah, I mean, it can get into a real hell bullet storm like nobody's business. I played more of this game, to be honest, on the NES just because of the fact that it was cheaper. Obviously, the graphics were not as good as the arcade, but it was still a fun time, and you can continue your game just on a whim. Just hit start whenever you caused all your lives and stuff, and you traverse your way through various maps of like jungle and terrain, and then you're in a train yard and you're fighting all kinds of weird bosses that just come out of the woodwork. You're fighting Apache helicopters to big mega mammoth tanks, and it's just a fun game. Like, I think my brother, like, he had just gotten into video games when we started playing it, and like, little did he know I was siphoning a lot of his lives because I was dying. but that's how it
Yeah,
goes.
that's how it goes.
It's a fun game. It's a fun shooter game. It's like Akari Warriors, but it's just set in like a different area, and it's
That's
really
cool.
really good.
Yeah, that's cool.
I really really miss playing. And it's hard to find that game. I swear, every time I went to like the Blockbuster,
Mhm.
it would be always rented out.
Yeah.
And whenever I tried to rent out, like that would be one of the first games. Tecmo Super Bowl and that game were like the first games that I would look
Yeah.
just at a glance.
Hell yeah.
And, if I found it, I would go immediately grab it.
I mean, that was one of the really cool things about Blockbuster is kind of discovering stuff like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of that stuff is based on box art. Like, yeah, I've got the box art
Yeah.
up on
Like,
the
look at that
screen.
thing, man.
Yeah, like
How would you not want to play that?
exactly. And yeah, there were just certain games that you rented based on the box art, and sometimes they were misses, and sometimes, like for you with this game, they end up being games that you talk about on a podcast 30 plus years later.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Yeah, I actually have never heard of that game. So it's cool that you brought it up. Let's move on to my first one. Charlie, the hockey playoffs are going on.
Yes, sir.
And obviously, you know that too, because you may have a selection here in a little bit to talk about as well. I decided to go a little bit more arcadey. So back on the PlayStation, um, of course, you had Acclaim making NBA Jam arcade style games, and NFL Blitz. But at the time, there was not a hockey arcade game until Electronic Arts came along and released Rock the Rink. So Rock the Rink is a 3-on-3, and then with a goalie each, arcade hockey game with all the NHL teams. It had all the main players that you would want to play as. So on the Dallas Stars, you had your Mike Modanos and Yuri Letninens and Richard Matvichuks and all those guys, which of course that's who I played. And it was just arcade ass hockey. Big hits, fights, big head mode. You could change the hockey puck into a tennis ball. You could have turbo mode. It was just dumb arcade hockey, and I absolutely loved it. It was just a real silly game. Not really power ups, but the cheats and stuff obviously added to it, and it kind of had that NBA Jam style of you kind of you don't necessarily have a schedule, but you start by facing the worst team and you work your way up like you do in NBA Jam. And one of the things that I remember most is that it had that song from Hole, the "Oh Make Me Over," da-na-na-na. That was the theme song of the game.
Vomit.
And so I probably heard that song a million times in that. So yeah, it was a great game. I wonder if it holds up now. I'd like to find out. But that was probably of that era, the kind of that PlayStation era. That was probably my favorite hockey game. And that's really it. I don't really have anything else to really kind of go on about
good,
that. What you got
When did
now?
that come out again?
That was probably 1997, 98.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So like the really really beginning of the PS1.
Yeah, kind of in that first couple years or so. But yeah, fantastic game. What's your next game, Charlie?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna have to jump on your coattails a little bit. I'm gonna go with the hockey game that I picked. For this segment, it would be NHL Face Off 2000. This one also came out the PS1. It came out, obviously the year 2000. Gosh, I remember when I got this game. It was literally on the throes of after the Stars had won their cup, and they were doing really really well, the next season as well. And I wanted a hockey game just to play. Like I hadn't played any hockey game since like ice hockey. Like I never really played Blades of Steel. I saw people play this game because the fights are really really awesome in it and stuff like that. But I never really played anything other than ice hockey, the NES, that thing. But I got this game and I was so amazed at okay, so it was in the PS1 era is still somewhat polygonal in its, appearance,
Mm.
but it looked really, really good.
Yeah.
And the style of gameplay, it literally, that was as close as I got to playing on the ice.
Yeah.
The passing, the response, from controller to playing was great. The touch passing, the the wrist shots versus slap shots.
Yeah.
They would show replays, especially on breakaways when you would break away and you have to
Oh yeah.
deke out the goalie to score the goal. One of the greatest moments I had playing that game, it would happen every game, is I would grab I would see a winger just making its way down the ice, in front of their boards, and I would take, you change your players and I'd turn into defensive mid and check them right into their own bench. And they would fall right into the bench. It was
So
really,
good.
really cool.
So good.
And it was really, I mean, it actually taught me a lot about the game because I was like, there were some rules where I'm like, what the heck is icing? And
Mhm.
like it had, obviously the two line pass back then, it was not allowed.
No.
So, it was a fun game to play. I don't know why, like I gravitated toward playing as the San Jose Sharks
Oh really?
because that was
Nice.
the team to play. Yeah, and
They were really
you
good
know,
back then.
I did want to pick like Detroit, or I
Sure.
honestly like I like not picking the best team,
Yeah.
as can be seen from my NCAA 14
Sure.
gameplay. I don't like playing the best team all the time because it just makes the game too easy. I like a little bit of a challenge, like get the middle tier team, you know,
Yeah.
to the cup
Yeah. You
essentially.
don't want them to be garbage
And,
because then it's not fun and they're not good enough. But yeah, you pick that.
exactly,
You pick that one and you bring him the glory.
exactly. It
I
was a fun game, man.
So back in the PlayStation era, I played the Rock the Rink one, but when it came to the simulation hockey, I also played Face Off. Back then, it was a better hockey game than the NHL EA series back on the
Yes.
PlayStation.
Oh, yes.
And that era of PlayStation Sports, 989 Studios, which made this, that was the in-house Sony developer. They also made Game Day. They made NFL Game
Yeah.
Day and NCAA Game Breaker.
Yep.
Better games than Madden on the PlayStation. Like the PlayStation Madden games were not as good as the 989 Studios games. I played all of those 989 Studios games. Those were the ones I'd buy every year, and Face Off was absolutely one of those.
Yeah.
They were just better games, and it.
Like the graphics weren't as good, but it was about the
No,
gameplay.
right, and the gameplay was always better, and the graphics were good enough. I mean,
Yeah.
Game Day '99. You remember who was on? Do you remember who was on Game Day '90? No, I'm sorry, Game Day '98.
No.
It was that Vikings. It was the Vikings defensive end Randall,
Oh, John Randall.
John Randall, and he on the cover he had his eye black.
Oh yeah.
So good. Yeah, those games are fantastic. Like I miss the days where multiple companies made sports games. Like it's
Yeah.
like there's not a sport that because EA doesn't make basketball anymore. They try, but they don't. And obviously football, there's only one NFL creator, and same thing with
Isn't 2K coming out with their
yeah, but it's not
football line eventually?
yeah, it's not NFL teams. It's players, but it's not teams.
Sure.
I mean, I'm looking forward to that, but I mean, in terms of like league stuff,
Yeah.
it's
It is funny that you mentioned like NHL, like it was it the EA NHL, because I remember my roommate at the time, he had 2000,
Mm-hmm.
and I just noticed like the disparaging difference that you can like game the game
Yeah,
by doing certain spin moves. And that's not what I was all about. I was like, actually like it wasn't a simulation, but Face Off was about as close to like
Yeah.
actual gameplay. And it was, I mean, obviously it was from a different perspective where like EA NHL was, behind the back, and this one was more like, you could set it to where you could like, it looks like what you're watching
Yeah.
on the TV.
yeah,
But that's how I liked playing that game, because you
Yeah.
can see the entire ice. You could pass, to the top of the key and stuff like that, and just play it, not rather than just game the game. Like it was frustrating when I lost, and I was like, well, you just gamed it. Like that's
exactly.
bullshit.
Well, and I think a lot of people, I think it's kind of like this era of football now where people buy Madden because that's just what they buy. I mean, back then it was the same thing with NHL on the SNES, NHL, and Sega. NHL by EA was the game. That was the game you bought. It was the best Super Nintendo 16-bit hockey. And so when it went to that next generation, people were like, "Oh, NHL." And then you played, and you're like, "This is not like I played." And it just wasn't quite as good. And yeah, Face Off and just all of the Sony made sports games were just way better. They just were.
989 Sports.
Oh, so good. I miss it. I miss it so much. All right, let me get into my next one. But before I get started, if you're in the chat, start throwing out suggestions for games for us to talk about. We could talk about it with you guys, and maybe we'll get to those as we go along. We're gonna keep bringing it back to sports with my next one, and we're gonna go all the way back. Jeez, Ryan. Hey, Ryan, can you pick a game that we've played? I have not played that game. We're gonna keep it at sports, but we're gonna go back to the Super Nintendo era with a little bit of football, and we're not gonna talk about Tecmo Super Bowl, and we're not gonna talk about Madden. We're gonna talk about one that you may not have played, you may not have heard of. It wasn't a very big one. This game is called Super Play Action Football.
I was so happy when I saw this on your list. I was like, "Oh my god!"
Super Play Action Football is a sequel to Play Action Football, which was on the NES. This is what I loved about Play Action Football. It's not the best football game, the actual football playing game. The perspective is bad. It's top down.
It's so weird.
It's top down and it's diagonal.
Yeah.
And the controls control as if you are looking at it diagonally. I don't know. But here's why I liked it. One, it was really the first football game I played on Super Nintendo because at then I wasn't aware of Madden, and I had not played Tecmo Super Bowl 3 yet. You could play as high school, college, or pros. And for the college and pros, it had all of the to a point with all the colleges, but they had colleges, and real NFL.
I didn't know that.
It's really cool. The high school, what you do is you actually create your high school. So back then I wasn't in high school, so I just created whatever high school was in the area for me at that point. I don't even remember what it was. And you play a 10-game season. You go to the playoffs, and you can win the state championship. And
wow.
College football, you pick your team. And there's rankings. You go through the season. You go to your bowl game, and and of course back then they didn't have the bowl championship series. If you were the number one team at the end, you won the championship. And in the NFL, of course, you had your schedules and everything. It's a bad playing football game. It's so bad. It's so bad. You can't see who you're throwing the ball to, and it's so slow, and it just doesn't play very well. But I'll be damned if I didn't play the shit out of that game. Charlie, did you really play a lot of it?
Here's the thing with this game. I never played it.
Mm-hmm.
When I got my Super Nintendo, though, do you remember how when the first Super Nintendos came out, like you would see the back of the box, they would show the Super Nintendo, but then they would show little pictures of other games that are coming out concurrently or coming out soon that console.
That was on there.
And that was one of the games that was on there.
Yeah.
And I swear when I saw that, I was so like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's what this console can do.
Yeah.
Because, we all played Tecmo Super Bowl. We all played Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah.
Being as great as those games are, they are not the greatest graphically. Mm-mm. They did what they could do. They did what they could do with what they had.
Yeah.
Well, when you saw this thing, and it was cool to kind of see it from again, I never played it, so I don't have the same perspective as you did. But to see it from that angle, I was like, wow, that's an interesting new way to look at football.
Yes, it is, but it does not. It was just the weird thing where, like, if you're looking at it from top down, when you would hit like left, you wouldn't
Yeah.
go left. You would go left across the line, so you would go at a diagonal.
So you had to kind of frame your
Yeah,
perspective on it, thinking
and
like, oh, it's
yeah,
going this way,
yeah,
but I have to think like it's going that
exactly.
way.
And it was really slow,
Yeah.
really slow. Um, it is one of those nostalgia things that you kind of talk about where you're like, man, when I was a kid, I loved it, but then obviously you get older and you're like, oh, I like this, but this is not a good game. Not at all. Nothing about that game is good, except for maybe the three tiers of football leagues. Like that's cool because no other game's really done that.
Yeah.
It's I played that was another one, Charlie, where I went to Blockbuster and I saw that box art and was like,
Box art,
look
man.
at that guy, football, let's fucking go. And yeah, I not a
And
great
again, I
game.
mean, it's got the team licensed NFL on it too.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And it was made by Nintendo, so it was like, oh, this should be good. No. It is not good. So that's Super Play Action Football.
it's a
Charlie,
misses.
it's a misses. All right, Charlie, give me your next game.
So I didn't, for the chat, there was a suggestion regarding the Power Rangers on the SNES. Did not get to play that game.
Me either.
However, I did play the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. You know, that great one, the arcade game where you're four players and you're going through time. Oh wait, no. This is a different game.
Yeah.
This is the Tournament Fighter game.
Yes.
Boy, so it was around that time where all these fighting games were coming out. Obviously, Street Fighter had is ruling the roost, and Mortal Kombat coming out. All the companies were starting to just like, hey, let's throw
make
a fighter together.
let's
We
make a
have
fighting
characters.
game.
Let's do it.
That Street Fighter's cool.
Yep, the Street Fighter's cool. Let's make it just kind of like that. And this game was really, really cool in the fact that you got to be Ninja Turtles and like there was some kind of story to it because you're pretty much just fighting your way through, through each character and to get to basically to become like the Grand Master. There were obvious. I mean, you had the four turtles in it, and you're asking me like, hey, there are only four turtles. Who else do you get to play as? I found it really, really cool that this game actually dug characters from the Archie comics, where the Ninja Turtles actually originated. You had like Wingnut, you had the Triceratops character, you had an android character. That all these characters were found in the comic books.
Yeah.
And you act like if you were a reader of these comic books, it was cool to see that you could play as them and see them like perform like in an animated stage. Oh God,
Sorry.
whatever you do, don't do that again.
Sorry, I was bunching up. Sorry.
That's all good. We just got a lot of buzzing there. um, obviously, like the moves are very akin to that of the the Street Fighter games, where it was the quarter circle forward and a punch button. You would do some type of like ninja attack or a diving attack, or you would throw a projectile and such. It was very, very like the graphics wise, it looked very, very much like Turtles in Time.
Yes.
And I think it came out right after Turtles in Time did.
It did.
To be honest. And it was fun. Like it was fun to play. Would it be like the first game that I run back to play regarding a fighting game? No. Like Clay Fighter is a better game than this.
Is it?
It is. It is.
Is it?
It's fun and it's nostalgic because you get to like pit like, okay, what if I want to have Raphael fight against Leonardo? Who would actually win in that match? I think I'm trying to remember. I think Splinter was a playable character. I'm not quite too sure.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and so, that's one of the games that I like fondly remember. It's a good fighting game that on a Saturday afternoon in the summertime when you're kind of Didn't want Street Fighter, didn't want Mortal Kombat. Let's play something goofy, cowabunga. So,
Yeah, and so
oh,
Charlie. What about that in the chat?
thoughts on Twisted Metal 3? Is that what you're asking me about?
Yeah, I did not play 3, but we can talk about that if you have thoughts on it. We can talk about that in a bit.
Well, it's your turn.
Oh no, I'm still gonna do one more, and I want you. I also, Charlie, I want you to talk about your third one on your list because I want to talk about that game.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that. Then we'll get to Ryan's Twisted Metal 3 thing, which you can take. Real quick thing on Tournament Fighters. Where I was introduced to that game is that it was one of the games in the Blockbuster video game tournament. That's how I was introduced to that game, and so because it was on that list of games that you had to play, I rented it from there and played it to get ready for to play that. So that's where I played it. And yeah, Tournament Fighters is a good fighter game. I mean, obviously Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat games like that were better, but yeah, it's a good little game. My next one, let's see, what do I want to do? You know what? I don't want to talk about another bad game, so we're gonna leave that one. I'll just say what it was. I was going to talk about State of Emergency. That's a terrible game. That's a Rockstar game that came out after
It led to GTA, didn't it?
No, Grand Theft Auto 3 came out first, and this was their next game.
Oh.
It's a bad game. I spent full price on it and played it one day. Not great. I'm glad you like it, Josh. But what I'm going to talk about, we're going to go with this one because this one's actually for Josh. The next one on my list is a game from the PlayStation 2. It was made by remnants of Rare. Coming off of GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, they released the first game in this series as a launch title for the PlayStation 2, and then a sequel was made. That game is called Time Splitters 2. Time Splitters is a first-person shooter made by a bunch of the people that made GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, and when you play that game, you can tell that game was made by people that made GoldenEye. Even down to the sound effects and the weapons, they're very reminiscent of that. They did the 4-player split screen deathmatch stuff that of course GoldenEye. Nice. So what they did is they basically they took GoldenEye and Perfect Dark and they continued to innovate on that 4-person split screen stuff and made it really, really good. Josh, you're 100% correct. I bought a multi-tap for my PS2 to play this game with people.
Oh my god!
And that was
awesome.
That's not a cheap thing either.
Multi-tap.
Yeah, the multi-tap was an expensive peripheral. The thing that it did over the first one, that one aside from just normal, just making it better, making it look better, is the first game did not have a single player at all. It was you played against bots and you played your multiplayer. This one they actually did a single player campaign, and it was a really good single player campaign. And it might be my favorite shooter from the PlayStation 2. I really like the Medal of Honor game from there, but it might be my favorite one. Maybe it might have been the most fun I had playing multiplayer on the PS2.
I just multiplayer 2 games on the PS2 other than Madden.
I mean, yeah, maybe that's not saying a lot, but I have so many fond memories of this. It's goofy, it's funny. They took a lot of what they learned from those earlier games from Rare and just made and it's so funny because all of the guns that you remember from GoldenEye, like the RCP-90, that SMG.
Oh yeah.
They call it basically the same thing. It's like the P90, and it sounds exactly like it. The reload sounds are the exact sounds from GoldenEye and Perfect Dark. And yeah, what Josh just said, you can make all the bots little dumb monkeys that you can go and shoot them. It's a fantastic game. I love Time Splitters 2. I bet it still holds up pretty well. Charlie, it sounds like you did not ever play Time Splitters.
No, I'm sorry. That
And
that is the one that kind of
man,
floated by me.
that
All the games that I played on the PS2.
yeah, it's
Um,
so good.
Unfortunately,
I'm
no.
surprised that never crossed over with us. That way that I never brought that over. I'm kind of
Sure.
surprised that was one that maybe we were just so into Madden.
Yeah, we
Um,
were into Madden and like Tiger
Tiger
Woods at the
Woods,
time.
yeah. Also another reason why, Charlie, that you might not have gotten into it is a certain other PS2 game that you have on your list. Maybe you were playing that instead, right?
That was before. Gosh, I remember playing that more toward the beginning of the when I first got the PS2,
Hmm.
and what Mitch is referring to is GT3, Gran Turismo 3 A Spec. I remember, God, all I heard about Gran Turismo 2 was how great that game was on the PS1. And then when that sucker came on, like the PS2 came out, and the grandeur that the new Madden game brought, like I still remember sitting on my buddy's in my buddy's living room and seeing him play Madden for the first time, and just the graphics just completely blowing me away. I was like, wow. And so when I had gotten, some scratch money underneath me and got Gran Turismo, that was like, I think, the real first racing game that I took seriously. Um, I mean, there was Daytona USA that we'd play at the arcades. I mean, Super Mario Kart I took seriously as well, but that was more of a kart game.
Yeah.
I mean, this one's like was racing. I mean, I remember having Adam over, and we would fool around with our engines. Like that was the craziest thing about this game is like you could literally go down to the nut and bolt with each car and customize it however you wanted to customize these games. I remember I had the Suzuki WRX, and that thing could beat out any
Hmm.
supercar out there because we had gone in and like changed out the gear ratios,
Yeah.
in which made it a way that like this thing would go from 0 to 60 in like 2 seconds. Yeah, I'm sorry, not Suzuki. Yeah, super sorry about that, car salesman brother. um my voice is trying to catch up with my brain at the moment, but yeah, they were really really fun to play, and like they looked really really good. I think I I got to the wall with that game when I think there's a mode in that game where you have to try to race around an actual um racetrack a total of 500 laps, and God, I think I got like 200 in, and I was like, what am I doing?
The endurance races.
Yeah, like this is like bananas. Like I loved racing, the Italian racetrack
Yeah.
and stuff. And like, obviously games have come out since then, Forza and such, that their graphics are just so phenomenal that you could like practically touch the cars on your monitors. But this game was like the first game that you really really got a handle of, oh man, like like my parents never brought me up to like be like a car junkie. I barely like knew
Right.
how to like change my oil and stuff like that. But like this game, like if you're really, really into cars, like
Yeah.
and wanted to play a video game, this was the game that really, really like, dug its heels into like saying, hey, let's like get underneath the engine and start to tweak some stuff and
Right.
mess around a little bit.
Well, and I think it also, I don't want to say it taught you, but it kind of showed you kind of how different things affect how cars handle in a
Well,
way that
sure.
was interesting. I will say this about Gran Turismo 3. There's two things. One, I still think this is my favorite racing game ever. I I definitely have not played a maybe Burnout. Maybe Burnout is, and those are kind of two different types of games,
Oh
but
yeah.
Burnout and just in the racing genre in general, Burnout may be right there.
Yeah.
Um, and two, I never got into Need for Speed, Josh. Maybe the old ones. Project Gotham is bad, at least to me, at least compared to other stuff. But the one thing we always see a lot of times when new consoles come out is, hey, let's show the car game and let's look how good cars look. I still have never been as impressed with a car game as I did when I first saw this game.
Yeah.
And it's obviously nowhere near the best looking one we've ever had, but in terms of what had come before it, because look, Gran Turismo and Gran Turismo 2 on the PlayStation, they're good games.
Yeah.
But they're PlayStation 1 games. They don't hold up. PlayStation 1 does not hold up as a system. When you would watch replays, especially on Gran Turismo 3, it looked fucking real.
Mm-hmm.
To us, to our video game minds, it looked real.
Yeah.
And I would watch every damn replay.
Mm-hmm.
I would do a race for the 12th time and still watch the replay. The amount of cars in the game were ridiculous. They had so many cars, you could totally just own your fucking car. Like, most games don't have that amount of cars in them anymore, where you could just be like, oh, I own whatever fucking car I had back then. Back then I had like a Toyota Camry, and they fucking had a Toyota Camry, so I got it. Obviously, racing games, simulation racing games are control better than Gran Turismo does, but for back then, it was great. I bought a fucking racing wheel for this game.
Wow.
The soundtrack is phenomenal in that game.
Yeah.
Fucking Dog Turismo, motherfucker. Snoop Dogg wrote a song for Gran Turismo, and it's fucking great. It is such a good game. It's
oh my god, I totally forgot about that.
Dog Turismo. He wrote a song called Dog Turismo. And Charlie, you talk about how you did the endurance races, and you got halfway through and you're like, what am I doing? Fucker, I completed the endurance races.
Like, we were just sitting there, and I'm like, okay, once you got through 100, we're like, all right, we just got like 400 more to go. And I think like my buddy was like, I think we were gonna go somewhere afterwards. And once we got past 200, like last, we're like, what are we doing? Like,
did you ever? So you know how they had the oval speedway?
Yeah,
they had that endurance. That may have been the 500 lap one. Did you ever? Did you ever do the rubber band trick?
No.
So the rubber band trick is you take your rubber band and you wrap it around the steering stick, and you have it at a certain angle to where it doesn't fully go to the right into the wall, but just enough to where it's kind of skirting the wall. You would pick your fastest car, so even though you're up against the wall, you would go fast enough, and then you would wrap it around the accelerator button, which was, I guess, back then X. And you would just you would do it, and you'd leave, and you come back, and the race would be over, and you'd win by you would have lapped the field by like 80 laps. It's a fantastic game. It's one of my favorite games on PS2. It's still like you said, Charlie, in the chat. I love Forza. Forza is a especially like Forza 3 and 4 are awesome. Forza Horizon is a great game. Yeah. But something about this one, and even 4,
when Gran Turismo 3 came out, nothing like it was out yet.
No, there was nothing better looking.
There was no car simulator. There was no the flight simulator, per se. This was that game.
Yeah.
And so when Forza came out, we were still blown away, but we had already had a taste of it with Gran Turismo 8.
Exactly. And
that's why this one was so overwhelmingly mind blowing. No, I mean, Driver's not a racing game. It's a great game.
That's not a racing game.
It's not a racing game.
It's a fantastic game, yeah. Well, and Gran Turismo 4 came out probably 3 years after that, and Gran Turismo 4 is a good PS2 game. It did not impress like this one did, and then, Gran Turismo 5 is kind of a wreck that came out for PS3, and this new one that came out on PS4 was kind of another one that it was more of an emphasis on racing online, and I kind of fell off of it. But man,
I think Forza is well past
these days. Yes. When I saw that, you said you got super excited about when you saw Play Action Football on my list. When I saw you put Gran Turismo 3 on it, I was like, oh my god, let's talk about that for 2 hours. It's fantastic. Let's. I'm gonna do one more, and then we've got two. We've got the Twisted Metal series and Mercenaries as our chat picks. Charlie, if you want to save that last one for another time, I mean, or if you could say what it is if you want. I've already said.
Save it for another
Okay,
time.
so my other one was State of Emergency. I'm not gonna talk about that. That game sucks. But my final game is an entry from the Sega Dreamcast, which 9/9/2020. It is now the 21st anniversary today of the release of the Sega Dreamcast. It came out September 9th, 1999. R.I.P. Dreamcast. You died way too long. Get the fuck out of here with Shenmue, Josh. Get the fuck out of here. Fucking Shenmue. God damn it. Got me triggered. No, we're actually going to talk.
I'll start.
No. We got to move on. I can't with him. No, we're going to talk about actually a very good game. We talked about this. We actually talked about this, I think, on the mailbag. Mailbag a couple, I think either last week or the week before. It was the first game I ever played online, and that is Phantasy Star Online. Phantasy Star is an RPG series that has its roots in the Sega Master System and the Sega Genesis. It's a very highly regarded series, and for the Sega Dreamcast, they made an online game. You know what, Josh? Why don't you start your own podcast and talk about the shit you want to? I'm kidding, bud. It was really the first. It was the first RPG I ever played online. EverQuest was out around that time, but I wasn't really big into EverQuest. But Phantasy Star Online, you were on dial-up, so as you can imagine, the connection was not great, and it was your kind of typical. You take quest. And you go and you fight monsters, you do your quest. I think the thing that kind of stood out a little bit from the rest was kind of the character classes. You could have people that use swords, or you could use guns. You could use sniper rifles. You could probably put a sniper scope on an LMG if you really wanted to, Josh.
Nice.
You had these little robots that would follow behind you. They were called mags. And as you continued to feed them stuff, they would get more powerful, and you would get stat boost off of them. It's a really, really fantastic online game. They did port it to the GameCube eventually, where I also picked it up there and also played on dial-up.
How was that with dial-up?
So the way that game was constructed, it's not like your typical MMORPG where it's massive, it's a massive world. Everything was kind of contained in a set path, in kind of dungeons and stuff. So there wasn't a ton of data that had to come in via the network.
Yeah, did that ever happen?
Oh,
pick up the phone.
It happened all the
game.
It happened all the fucking time.
Oh,
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it was the fucking internet on dial-up. Of course it did. Now eventually that would stop because we got the second phone line for internet
there
only.
You go.
But yeah, I mean that shit. I can't tell you how many times trying to download shit on Napster.
If someone called in, did that interrupt it, or I guess that would cause a busy signal.
It would be a busy signal. It was only if someone picked the phone off of the hook.
Shit.
Which of course, during the day, if Mom Nate needed to make a phone call, she didn't give a shit. No, Mom, I'm almost level 3. It's probably exactly how I sounded like. But yeah,
I'm in the middle of a boss fight.
I'm in the boss fight, yeah. And so there was kind of a minimum amount, and of course those games back then were built upon playing on dial-up. So the amount of data that was coming in is not kind of what you think it is nowadays. where you have these big worlds that have to load in. Everything would load in via the disc, and then really the only data was your actual movement and what you're doing.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely the father of console online RPGs. Like there wasn't really anything before it, and this did it very well. And without it, we don't console MMOs don't exist. They wouldn't exist in a way that means anything, even probably today. It
For sure.
it's fantastic. I love it so much. I played a little bit of Phantasy Star Online 2, which is the new one that's come out. I'm not into it as much. Like, it's one of those things where I wanted to play it and I wanted it to feel exactly like the first one did, and I don't get that same feeling. So I really didn't play it that much. But that's Phantasy Star. Go ahead.
Was it like, I guess, Final Fantasy then?
Like the story driven
Or
RPGs,
Xenosaga?
like the story driven RPGs. Yes, it was like those, but the I'm trying to think what this would be like. It was basically kind of like a dungeon crawler, really. If you think about it, like a third person dungeon
Oh,
crawler, where you
okay.
uh the uh the it's third person, the camera's behind you, you go and you attack, you defend, you
Oh,
could shoot from a distance. So I guess it's more of an action RPG more than anything. It's not kind of like a World of Warcraft where you're right on and you've got all these different spells
yeah.
and everything. Like, basically you had a light attack, a medium attack, and your special, and that was really about it. Now you would have like your stuff that can buff your stats and things like that, but it was really just kind of a hack and slash style game. Very good game, love it. I kind of miss those old days of kind of that style. Like I said, Fantasy Star Online 2 just didn't really do it for me.
Yeah.
Um, but that's going to do it for our list. We'll of course do this again, very soon. Oh, I fucked up.
Oh, no.
Well, I'll tell you what, because I don't want to screw anything up, or Fantasy Star Online is going to continue to be on screen to the end of this podcast. I deleted my overlay, so that's great.
Oh,
So let's talk about the couple of the games that they talked about in the chat. Ryan brought up both of them. One being the Twisted Metal series. He brought up three, but he said we could talk about the entire series. Um,
oof.
Charlie, what?
I'm so glad he said that,
Yeah,
like,
because
come out with the series, because honestly,
I didn't play three.
3 is probably the most lackluster of all those.
I
I'm not
didn't.
including the newest one on
Oh,
the
the
PS.
PS3.
Yeah,
PS3.
I'm not
Yeah, I
including
didn't
that
play that.
one.
I
From what
didn't.
I've heard, there's reviews regarding that
Yeah.
one as well.
I didn't play.
But
I did not play 3 or 4. I've played 1, 2, and Twisted Metal Black.
Black, yeah. And honestly, those are the ones you need to play.
Yeah.
Gosh, Twisted Metal was such a. It basically, I don't know, like, even it took car combat to a whole nother level in regards to, like, it took the battle mode from Mario Kart and,
Oh
like,
yeah.
added
It made it mature.
chainsaws and heavy metal
Yeah.
and
Oh God.
awesomeness to it. There was
Sweet
a
Tooth.
rated R component to it
Yeah.
that made you keep coming back to this game. The bloodlust just was awesome. The storylines behind each character in the game, like,
Yes.
even though as macabre as they were, you kept wanting to kind of like dig deeper into like what is
Yeah.
driving
They wrote backstories
them.
and stories for every character, and that's not just in one of the games. Every single game, all the way through Black, they wrote stories, and they were
Yeah,
good stories for the most part.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, and like you would play like that. That's what kind of like placated into the repeatability of this game, is that you would play as one character, go all the way through it, beat it, get to Callisto, and he would fuck you over somehow, and then you would go as another character because you're like, okay, what kind of dark
Yeah.
corner of the world have you been festering in, and why are you in this particular tournament? And it was fun to. I think my favorite, obviously, the best one I think of the series is 2.
Okay.
It definitely took what 1 did and perfected it
Okay.
with, again, its limitations. It's a PS1 game, very polygonal, but the maps were very, very creative. The characters that you could play as. God, I played as Axel so many times. It was just ridiculous. He was the guy with like the big wheels, and his hands were basically the wheels and such. Everyone was obviously in love with the maniacal clown Sweet
Of
Tooth,
course.
because I mean, your ice cream truck would turn into a freaking clown like
Yeah.
monster thing,
Yeah.
and that was really really badass. You could blow up the Eiffel Tower
Yeah.
in like change maps. It was so much fun to play.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you that 2 is a better game than 1. My favorite is Black on the PS2. Twisted Metal 2 is a fantastic game. I'm not saying it's not. But it took what you're talking about, Charlie, with the changing of the maps to a whole new level. Do you remember the
Yeah,
level in Twisted Metal Black where it was kind of the city and you could dislodge the fucking Ferris wheel
the
and
Ferris wheel.
it
Yeah.
would roll down the map? Like
Yes.
and you talk about kind of the macabre nature of the Twisted Metal series. Twisted Metal Black was a mature rated game.
Oh, dude,
On the
I
on the
remember.
PlayStation they were T, but these were
Yeah,
straight because of blood and cussing and just
yeah,
dark. They used "Paint It Black" from Rolling Stones as the theme
yeah,
song, which was
yeah.
awesome.
That is probably one of my top 10 like pop song in like
Oh,
other like normal culture into video
it's
games, and
so
it
good. It
translated so
fits
well.
so perfect, and
Yes.
it like because like Twisted Metal and Twisted Metal 2, like in terms of the looks they don't hold up, but the
No.
gameplay they still feel
Yeah.
good. But Twisted Metal Black, like it took it to that next level, and of course with the looks and the better technology for physics engine. It also
Yeah.
did they also did have Twisted Metal Online where you could play 8-player multiplayer, which was
Yeah.
fucking great. And it's a shame that for all intents and purposes, after Twisted Metal Black, the series kind of died.
Yeah.
Um,
They tried to resurrect it,
and
but
it was not well received at all. Until Ryan mentioned it, I had forgotten about that Twisted, because you remember when they announced that at E3, they had the big giant Sweet Tooth ice cream truck at E3, and everybody was going fucking crazy. And then the game came out and like, oh man, this is a bad game. This is a
oh,
bad game.
didn't the creator, what's his name? Was it Jaffe?
Jaffe, yeah,
Like
David Jaffe.
he went out there and was
Yeah,
like, and we got one more
and
thing,
yeah,
and
and
then
then here comes the
that all
fucking Sweet
happened.
Tooth, and then the game
And
was
of course,
trash.
well, and then, I mean, yeah, everyone was so excited to see because of how great that series is.
Yeah,
Speaking to what Ryan was suggesting initially, Twisted Metal 3 is not a bad game.
yeah,
It's a step down
yeah,
because Twisted Metal 2 raised the stakes.
yeah,
They created very very creative maps. They made the gameplay a lot more crisp. It became a lot more exciting and hectic. When it came to 3, the maps were kind of just like carbon copies of what we'd
yeah.
seen already,
It was
and
very
like
generic compared to
for
the
a
rest.
series to keep getting better, you have to keep upping the ante. And with Twisted Metal Black, it brought back the feelings of what Twisted Metal 2 did. Plus,
Yeah,
like you said, because of its mature rating, it was more of an adult game where you're like, even the backstories with some of that was just like, oh
dark,
my god, this is
dark.
dark.
Well, and they have obviously with the PlayStation 2, they had the ability to make even bigger maps as well.
Yes. Have you
And
played that game recently?
I have not. I want
Black.
to. I bet you it's still
I
good.
forgot how hard
It's not
that
easy.
game
It's not
is.
an easy game.
I died because remember the first level was like it had that random B-52 airplane that was kind of in
Yes.
the air,
Yes.
and then there was this factory that was connected to it along with like a carnival tent. I died
Hmm.
immediately in that like on that stage several times before I finally like got my legs underneath me and like was able to get later on in the game. Oh, what is that tanker truck that you had to beat in the second in the first games?
Oh, what was his
I
name?
remember
The
he was
one
a
on the
mid boss.
rooftops?
Yes.
Yeah, I forget what his name was. You could totally goose that
Yeah.
one too. You could hang below him and he would always drive off the side and he would take damage, reappear, and you just keep
Yeah.
doing it over and over
Well,
again.
in Black he was a mid boss, and that mid boss boss fight where you're fighting in the arena in inside the enclosed stadium,
Mm-hmm.
and you have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
It's you and him, and you just better, ball up and get as many missiles and homing everything as possible, because he's got this torch that's on top of his tanker. It's bananas how great of a game that is. And like, unfortunately, you know, their revival just felt really, really flat with their approach. And I
And
don't understand what their aims were, trying to make factions. Like, you know, I don't know, they're placating, they're probably trying to like make it more of a multiplayer base, because multiplayer was, hot at that time.
yeah, and
Sometimes you can tweak it too much, though, that you just ruin what makes it so special.
I think we talked about this with Mass Effect.
Bananas.
They killed Twisted Metal. That series will never come back. We will never get another Twisted Metal. There's no way that there will ever be
Oh,
another one.
I mean,
Um, I
it
just
would
don't
have to
see
be
it.
something online. I mean, I don't even
I
know.
don't even think Jaffe is there anymore anyway. Not that it
Yeah.
matters, but Josh actually made a good point. So, talking about car combat, Vigilante 8 was the other series that was big. I actually agree with Josh. I think Vigilante 8 was a better PlayStation car combat game than Twisted Metal was back then. It's not better than Black for me. Like Twisted Metal Black is a far superior game, but on the PlayStation, Vigilante 8 and Vigilante 8 Second Offense are awesome.
Yeah.
And Josh, 100% correct. Twisted Metal Battle Royale. 60 cars go into a
Yeah.
big, huge area, and you have to survive. 100% in. Take my money.
Yeah.
Take my goddamn money. But overall, Twisted Metal. Take out the PS3 one. Fantastic series. I miss that series. I just don't think we're ever gonna see it again, and that sucks. Charlie, the other game that that Ryan would like for us to talk about. I don't know if you played this game or not. I know I did. Did you ever play Mercenaries?
Boy, I played that in passing, because, again, this was when all the army shooter games were coming out of the woodwork,
Mm-hmm.
and you just kind of had to pick and choose. And I think I was on the Medal of Honor slash
Sure.
early Call of Duty list.
So Mercenaries was on the PS2 and Xbox, and it was a third-person shooter. You were, breaking news, a mercenary, and you were basically trying to take out, in essence, the Saddam Hussein and his whole regime. Basically,
A dictator.
it might as well have been that. This is actually what I would say is the roots of the Nemesis system.
Oh, wow.
And because you had your deck of 52, and there were, for each card, there was a general leader or whoever that you had to go take out to continue to progress up the path to get to Saddam Hussein. And it played great. It did have couch co-op. It did that. The first one did not have online, which is sucks. I wish it would have. The second one did. Second one is not anywhere near as good as the first one, but the it's one of those lost games of that generation that absolutely, Josh, you're 100% correct. It's kind of one of those lost games of that generation that people don't really talk about, but it really is one of those games that should be talked about more. And the third person genre, especially since then, is just overrun with games of all types, from your Gears to your
Sure.
to your kind of generic army shooters that are third person. I would love to see them try to make a Mercenaries now with that kind of Nemesis system or a 52 deck of cards type thing, because I think if it's in the right hands, it would work. This was an EA game. I don't know if I want EA doing this one. Actually, I don't want them to do this one. But
It's
it's
interesting. So on Wikipedia, give or take what it says on there.
sure.
So it says, after pandemic studio shut down, a small demo was released. Despite this, EA has inexplicably continued to renew their ownership of Mercenaries 3 website since
So they're keeping
which was renewed again this year.
so they're keeping that alive.
Yeah, somewhat.
I
So
mean, I don't know. I don't think we're ever going to get Mercenaries back. But Mercenaries is a fantastic game, and I believe Mercenaries was one of those games that it wasn't because PS2 games were $50 at full price. I believe this was one that was a like a $40 game. I don't think it was full price. That was kind of the era of the B game,
yeah,
where they had the like $30 to $40 kind of B style game that we kind of don't have anymore because it's really basically just it's either full price or you're an indie game. Maybe we're starting to kind of see that a little bit with stuff like the Star Wars Squadrons game that's coming out. That's $40.
yeah.
That's a good trend I'd like to see come back. But I believe that's going to do it for the topic of the week. Ryan, thank you guys. Thank you for the
Thank
couple of
you.
suggestions. I hope you guys enjoyed our selections. I love doing that. I think we're going to continue to do that probably once a month. Because one, it's an easy topic, but also Charlie, I think
It's fun to reminisce,
I know
man.
it's fun to talk about just old stuff that we played. No, Josh, World War Z is a bad video game. Thank you. And good book, good movie. But yeah, we're gonna try. Charlie. We are gonna try to get more inclusion with the chat on things like this as we go along. Some good suggestions tonight from Ryan. So next month, try to get your stuff in. Maybe we could kind of do a little theme. Maybe we can do kind of a scary type theme for October. Um, Doug Flutie Foot. Oh boy. But anyway, we're gonna move on, and we're gonna move on to the next segment, which is the mailbag. And if you have any questions for the mailbag, you can send them into any number of places. You can hit us up on our Twitters. You can hit us up on the Discord. And you can even email us at themcgamescast@gmail.com. Still looking for our first email, of course. But we're going to get into
You can
that.
hit us up on our stream.
Yeah, you can hit us up on the
Where's
stream.
that?
Let's see. I'm trying to think. Oh, I know what it is. It's twitch.tv/Charzar81 or twitch.tv/Team Llama Squad. Check Charlie out tomorrow for some more NCAA 2014 action. And Friday, probably marbles. That's fun. That's easy. We'll probably do that. And then a little Doom
Marbles is
2
good.
on Sunday, finishing that up. Let's get into the mailbag. The first one comes from our good friend Josh Shizzle. Twitch.tv/Josh Shizzle 2323. What is your favorite video game weapon and why? Charlie? In my mind, I have guesses for what yours are.
I mean, the BF. See, so it's a hard. I hate to pick the BFG because it's so top of mind, but it's such a good eliminating everyone
Sure.
on the screen weapon.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I mean, granted, it is a slow pulsing orb of death that is coming your way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was anything invented before that caused such destruction on such a massive scale.
I don't think so.
All at once.
I don't think so.
That or does the red shell count?
The red shell can count. Okay, let me.
I can't even tell you how many times I owned my brother at battle mode in Super Mario Kart.
Oh, sure.
And having the red shell is definitely like a game changer.
So I had two guesses for you. You already said BFG. That was one. The other one, the chainsaw gun from Gears.
Yeah,
I thought that you might go with that
that's so
one.
good.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
And now I've made it more difficult for you. Yes.
I mean the cutter, the tool you initially get in Dead Space,
Mm-hmm.
which is a pistol.
Yeah.
But that thing is, if you get it to reasonable level and strength. It's honestly like I think I've gone through that game, and that is the my go-to weapon in that game
Yeah.
versus like the line splitter or anything like that. Oh geez, there's a lot like you could pick from.
Sure.
The splitter, the split shot in Contra.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Like I think the Mega Man Buster, I love that. But that's more nostalgia for how much I love Mega Man. But I think in terms of like pure weapon, I mean this is going to be dorky and that's fine, but I love the gun blades from Final Fantasy VIII. I think it's a cool concept of slashing at someone, pulling the trigger and hitting them with a bullet. I think that's such a neat thing. I think the people that are like, "Oh, the Buster Sword from Final Fantasy VII," it's a fucking big sword. Who gives a shit? Like it does. Like I don't know. Like it's lame to me. But
I will say there's a special one in my heart. When you stirred up Final Fantasy, it's like, oh yeah, there's that. So it happens to be Waka's
oh, the
ball,
ball. Hell yeah, dude.
and it's specifically the capture ball because I like the idea that it acts like a Pokeball.
Yeah.
And if you literally get like
Man, that's a good
level up
one.
as high as you can capture quote unquote some gnarly enemies in that game.
Yeah.
Which if you played that game before, the more you capture people, if you go to like there's a secret place in the arena that if you've captured certain um, enemies, that he conjures up like a super enemy that you have to fight, and you get ridiculous
Yeah.
buffs and prizes.
That's his.
and
That's
awards
his.
for beating him. So.
That's his. That's Waka's like final like kind of side quest.
No, it's
No.
there's
I'm
weapons
saying.
in
I'm
that
saying go for fighting that final boss thing. Isn't that like
No,
for
that's
his
not his
ultimate?
final.
Oh, it's not his ultimate.
No.
It's been so long since I played it.
It's there are weapons in the game that have the ability capture.
Mm.
I like it because I just like the idea that again it's like a
It's like a
Pokeball. You
Pokeball.
throw it, and I honestly always used it as a kill shot.
That's
So.
awesome. I would just like to take this opportunity to remind everybody that Final Fantasy X is a fantastic video game.
Yep.
So yeah. Yeah, not maybe
that
not that.
laughing scene.
Oh, we still have to talk about the story in that game. We're not gonna do it now, but we still have to do a segment on that. All right, let's move on. We're gonna go to our good friend Smithy. You're 100% correct, Josh. X2 is not a good game. It should have been better than it is.
Yes.
We're going to go to our friend Smithy Fingers, and we're going to talk streaming in this one. So he wants to talk about like what our favorite kind of overlay stuff is, stuff we like, stuff we don't like, green screen effects, overlays, kind of what our setup is. I'll go ahead and start with this one. I've kind of evolved my setup to be more of a minimalistic look. I've got one overlay at the very bottom with kind of my information of the stream. I've got at the very top, I've got my donation goal, and then I'm down there in the corner. That's really about it. That's not to say that whatever everybody else does is bad. I just prefer having the minimalistic look because Charlie, I really like your setup a lot. It's very clean looking. I did mess around with some green screen stuff. I didn't love it. Charlie, why don't you talk a little bit kind of like what maybe not only what your setup is, but maybe what you kind of want to how you want to evolve yours since you're much newer than I am.
So I like my setup in that it relays a decent amount of information to the person who is watching the stream, and it kind of keeps everything hidden in a way that like it's not there in front of you when it doesn't need to be, but when the time comes for there to be like, oh, there's a new follower, the overlay will show that.
Yeah.
And the problem I had when I initially started, I noticed that my screen placement would tend to block a lot of, minutia, but also some, important information when I'm like trying to watch a video game. And I really didn't like that. So I try to maximize my screen, even though it is part of an overlay,
Mm-hmm.
um, without trying to block any of that,
Sure.
necessary information for people who, like, to be honest, may not have necessarily watched this is their first time watching the game, so they're trying to understand, like, oh, well, what's over here in this lower left corner. And I didn't like the idea of, like, like, I remember when we were trying to set up, um, you with your initial streams, we would, like, have to tell you, like, hey, move you over to the bottom right
That
this
was a
time.
problem with Jackbox a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
in
so by making it full screen within a screen, I don't have to mess with that
Sure.
anymore.
Yeah, and like I said, like I think your setup is super cool. I really like it a lot. Um I feel like I've done a lot better, especially when I was trying some of the green screen stuff. It made it to where I wasn't blocking as much stuff. I really like my setup for my Rocksmith stuff. I've got in the bottom corner, I've got the actual gameplay. It's much smaller, and I have me blown up because I think for the Rocksmith stuff, I think people like seeing the performer play in that regard more than the actual gameplay itself. Because I mean, the gameplay is, oh, here's those notes. They want to see
Yeah.
what they want to see me playing it, so I like that setup. And I feel like that I've gotten to a good point in most of the games that I play where wherever my big dumb head is, it's not covering anything that needs to be shown. Like in Rocket League, it's on a space where there's no information.
Yeah.
Same thing for all the shooters that I play, and marbles. Who cares? Like, I put me in the fucking center of the of the screen, have me move around, like just an ever moving around picture of my dumb head. Yeah, obviously it's all evolving, and I'm sure like all of us, Charlie, you're probably gonna try something new at some point just to see if something different works, and it may or may not. But yeah, and Josh, you're right. Yours is as minimalist as possible with yours. I kind of like that. I kind of like, especially
Yeah.
when Josh is playing Resident Evil 3, just that little head. I think that's
7.
cool. What'd I say? 3? I said 3, didn't
Yeah.
I don't know why I did that, but I think that works well. Like I think when I play Until Dawn, I'm gonna make myself
Yeah.
I'm gonna make myself very small, like big enough where people could see my reactions.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna get my green screen stuff working the right way. You
Yeah.
know, so
And I'm thinking about doing that same thing as well when it comes to playing Resident Evil 2 or
yeah.
whichever October scary game I pick.
And the reason why I kind of went more minimalist is that I kind of got to the point with my information, like follower, next sub and stuff, that people in general tend to care less about that stuff. That doesn't move the
Yeah.
needle as much. Again, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have it.
Sure.
Some people like seeing their name there. Like, I think there's some people that think that's kind of cool. But I think most people just like seeing that ding and then it shows so and so just follow. They like seeing their name up there for a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's everybody's got their thing. Some people like a bunch of shit on there. Like a bunch of shit. I don't
Yeah.
care for that. I think it takes away a little bit too much. But one more from Smithy, and we'll get going. So back in the day, online video games, it was open mics. Everybody could chat to everybody. Do you miss that?
Mm,
I'll tell
God.
I'll tell you right now, 99% of it, no. Because it was such a beating. Everybody wouldn't shut the fuck up. And you got little kids, going, saying the worst shit ever.
I will
And
say this though. It was a beating, but I remember playing Assassin's Creed, and
oh,
I
sure.
think this was with Ryan, playing Assassin's Creed multiplayer, and then literally a mom got on because the kid
Yes.
was like did not finish his homework and stuff,
Yeah, that
and
shit's
literally
good.
threw the kid out of the game,
That's
and
the
you could hear
1%.
the rabble going on in the background, and it was
You
it
know
was,
what?
it was kind of funny.
So Call of Duty does a really, really funny thing where when you kill somebody and if you're
Yeah,
near them, you can hear like 3 to 5 seconds of what their on their mic is if they have it open. So a lot of
yeah,
times you kill someone, they're like, "Oh, what the fuck?" And it's never not hilarious. Like that stuff's cool, but yeah, for the most part, I don't miss that shit because the most
yeah.
vile, heinous shit would just come out. Just
Mean Green
awful.
in the chat. Remember, like, so we heard these kids, and they're like, I'm not kidding, and like, I say this with no like type of like offense or anything. This, unfortunately, the context of how this is going to be taken,
This
whatever.
is a
But
quote.
they were basically
Quote.
saying like, "What the Jew?"
What? No,
And
that's not a thing.
we were like, "Well, what did he say?"
Watching too much damn South
we,
Park.
we would play it more. We're like, "What the Jew?" And we're like, "Oh my god, just kids, just go
Dude.
away."
You know what? I bet you it's not any better. You just don't hear it because there's not a lot of open mic stuff. That's a fun question. Thanks, Smithy. Thank you a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Smithy, for the questions. Appreciate you,
So
pal.
the answer is no with caveats.
Yeah, no, with like 2% of some of that shit's hilarious.
Yeah.
All right, next up, we got a question here from old Nico. What is your favorite RPG class? Video games, tabletop, whatever. So it could be anything. Your tank, healer, support, rogue, assassin. What's your favorite genre to play in games?
Oh, that looks even better. Oh gosh, RPG. What are we talking about? Are we talking like where our lines lie? Like like lawful good,
No,
lawful
it's kind of
neutral,
the
lawful
basically.
evil,
Do
or
you like being like front and center, doing the most damage? Your warrior. Do you like to stand back and be more of a support, like your healer?
oh
Do you
boy.
like being in the shadows and be sneaky and stealthy?
I like being right in the middle. Like not like a tank, but at the
Hmm.
same time not like standing back like say like an archer or
Yeah,
a wizard. I like being the kind of like the jack of all trades. Like if I'm just gonna take a role from like my favorite RPG, Mass Effects, it'd probably be a Sentinel,
sure.
where he's not like super gun heavy, but he's not just all like based upon like magical aspects.
Yeah.
He's like right in the middle of the road where like he can, he's not too specialized in one thing. Like where like oh gosh, what if I ran out of thank you,
You're a
thank you,
wizard,
man.
Charlie.
Um, where he's not like all super gun heavy, and like all of a sudden I run about bullets and what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
And also like he's not super mana heavy where it's just like oh I'm out of mana, well just gotta run around until I find more mana. I like being like kind of like in the middle.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. Like in RPG, like kind of fantasy style RPGs, paladin slash red mage, where you're good at melee, being front and center, but you can also heal. You could do a little bit of magic here and there. Like when I play, excuse me, when I play like Skyrim, like Elder Scrolls games, I I tend to kind of go that way too. I put a lot of stats in being a tank, but I also put some into my healing in certain kind of magic spells. So I like kind of that hybrid of stuff. I know that's kind of I feel like that's kind of copping out to Nick's question, but it's a
Yeah, I know. I
but
feel the same
but I
way.
mean but paladin slash kind of jack of all trades is a class in RPG, so I think it works fine. So I hope that answers your question, Nick, and we love you very very much. Coming up next, this one's kind of an internal question. We just wanted to talk about this, and it actually goes into Ryan's question, which we'll get to. If you could give up, you have to give up one: breakfast or dinner. And so Charlie, let me ask this before we get to it. So,
Where we lay down the
well, well,
stakes,
well. So, what does that mean?
literally.
What does that mean for lunch? Is it basically you can only eat lunch style, dinner style stuff all the time, or breakfast stuff all the time? Is that kind of where you're going? Kind of, it's
Yes,
either
like
or.
you can't do the like, oh, I eat breakfast for dinner, so I
Yeah,
have that or whatever.
yeah,
Oh no, well, I have steak. There's steak and eggs, so I
right.
can have steak and
So
eggs. So
basically, you're either having true breakfast items, your waffles, your pastry style stuff, or you're having your meat and potato style. You can have pizza. You can't be like, breakfast pizza. Yeah, no. So for me, the answer is super easy. It's breakfast. I'm keeping it. I'm keeping breakfast. I should say I'm getting rid of dinner. I'm keeping breakfast. I can eat breakfast all the time.
mm,
I
that eliminates a lot of stuff, man.
it
Like
does, and that's fine.
pizza,
That's fine. I
steaks.
I don't mind that. Because that means I still get bacon. That means I still get sausage. I still get, I can have a nice like Canadian bacon style breakfast sandwich. I can have all the pastries, donuts, and everything like that. I love fucking breakfast. I love it. I love sausage. That's right, Ryan. How about you, Charlie?
Well, just to be the sake of a contrarian, I'd probably go rather the dinner route because of the entire like, give me my steak, give me my
Sure.
baked potato. Obviously pizza is not considered a breakfast menu, and so that's a huge thing, whatever. But all like the
Sure.
pastas and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it's hard to say though. Like when you go like overseas and like to other countries and stuff like that, what they consider, God, like I would have to give up an Irish breakfast, which my God, like I've heard like that's ridiculously huge and awesome.
Yeah.
But God, and I would miss eggs because I
Yeah.
would consider eggs more of like a breakfast
Oh,
meal
for
than
sure.
a
For sure.
dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh ate the whole pizza.
He ate the whole pizza before breakfast. Yeah, I mean, and that's not to say I wouldn't miss dinner. I
No, yeah.
absolutely would, but I love breakfast. There's so many combinations of stuff. Maybe I want some blueberry pancakes one day, and then I'm gonna wake up and have donuts, and then I can have, breakfast taco. I can have all that stuff. So, which actually leads into the next question. Let's go ahead and go. What's better, breakfast tacos or
Oh.
regular tacos? And while you're thinking, Charlie, or maybe you already have your answer.
Mm.
All right, what's your answer? You go first. I went.
It's
I went first on.
it's breakfast tacos and like is nobody else's business, man.
It's breakfast tacos, and despite the other question, this one's not even close. Nowhere close. Give me that goddamn bacon, egg, and cheese taco, motherfucker. I want it. I want it. You know what? Breakfast tacos are on my list of stuff where it's like, hey, you can only eat one more thing the rest of your life. Fucking breakfast tacos. Let's go.
I will say this though, I would miss fish tacos.
Sure.
You know, the greatest fish tacos I've ever had, still to
Yeah.
this day at Encinitas.
I made fish tacos at home
But
about 2 weeks ago, and they were fantastic.
but yeah, like breakfast tacos, just
Oh, yeah.
because. Oh, I know authentic tacos are so good, man.
Oh my God. What's
My
the
brother's speaking up in the chat, but
what's the sausage, the spicy sausage?
chorizo.
Yeah, chorizo and egg. God damn it.
Yeah,
I'm ordering breakfast tacos in the morning.
like I remember the stories that you would come back after you go fishing with your dad
Oh,
and
the
like
fucking
talk
best.
about
Dude,
that breakfast taco place.
I found a place that is it's equal here in town. When we get
What?
back in the office, I'm bringing you a breakfast taco. It's
There you go.
fucking amazing. I want. Oh God. Man, I
Like I'll
want it
say
now.
this, like where we were at, like we got a place called Torchy's, and
Yes.
I love all their tacos there. But man, I will like immediately the fact that they serve breakfast tacos all day
Yeah.
long. I will get the breakfast taco
Yeah.
first. Like
So
and
yeah.
like
I got shrimp tacos from Torchy's not that long ago. Fantastic taco. Fantastic. Give me those breakfast tacos every
yeah,
day, all day. In fact, if the meal question was, hey, you can
grab
eat.
one now.
Hell, if the earlier question was, hey, you can either have dinner all the time or breakfast tacos, which do you pick? I'm picking breakfast tacos. Love it. All right, we got one more question. It's from Ryan. This one's a video game related one. If you could pick one genre to play forever, it's the only one, what would it be? Now, this isn't necessarily your favorite genre because your favorite genre may not be great for being the genre you're going to play the rest of your life. This is tough.
Boy, I'm trying to think of all the games I've played through and how much fun I've had with all of them.
Yeah. So, I hate to play the thing I always bitch at Ryan about, which is trying to ask questions about
Kind of
questions.
maximize.
What genre do you consider Rocket League? Is that sports? Is that considered the sports
That's a good
category?
question. I mean,
I don't know what else it
I
would
mean,
be.
because you could pick sports as a genre, and then boy, you'd have a lot of ground to cover there. You'd
Yeah.
have all football, basketball, baseball, hockey.
Yeah.
You'd have that.
So many Maddens to be disappointed with.
Is a game like Splatoon considered a sport?
Or is that a shooter?
Yeah.
I think it's a shooter if I had to put it in a place. Splatoon.
Is Fall Guys considered a sport?
or is Fall Guys considered a battle royale?
Yeah, and that's boy.
I mean, I know this is boring because I always talk about them. It's probably battle royales for me just because, there's different styles of battle royale. Hell, we're about to get a new one with Mario 35. You
Yeah.
know, the variety in BRs it has gotten to the point where there's enough variety. I think you can find that.
I mean, this may be a complete cop out, but I mean,
Video games.
video games, when it comes down to it, like the first one I played ever was a platformer.
Sure.
They're so, like, when you're talking about forever,
Yeah.
I think platformers proliferate
I
the
don't think
catalog more than any other
I don't think that's a cop out.
genre.
I don't think that's a cop out because
And
I think there's a definite like line of what is a platformer. So I don't think that's a cop out at all.
yeah, and I would have variety while at the same time I wouldn't have to be constant. Like I could either play at leisure or with, conviction. I can jump in and out. I
Yeah.
can, go for a long duration, like, an epic Mario Galaxy game,
Yeah.
or I could just jump in for like a Mario level, or, I mean, you're talking about, I think half the NES games were originally
Well, of
platformers.
course. Yeah.
Is Zelda, is Ocarina of Time, is that considered a platformer?
No, I think of that more as a action adventure, kind of action RPG.
Is Metroid a platformer?
Well,
See, there's
if you want to
like,
go, is Castlevania a platformer?
yeah,
Is
God of War, that's a platformer.
Rogue Legacy, is that a platformer, or is that an
Yeah,
action game, or is that an action RPG?
or
Yeah.
is a roguelike.
See, that's why that question's hard because there's so yeah, right? Yeah, does that go under?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Roguelikes. All right, I'm sticking with BR.
Like I'd have to go platformer just because I have fond memories of it. There's so much ground that I haven't covered yet, so much ground that is yet to be covered, and
Yeah.
I'd have my variety. I'd have my all the Lego games are platformer.
Right. Yeah.
God of
Man.
War, Devil May Cry, those are platformer. All those
Is
type of games.
Shadow Complex, is that a platformer?
Shadow Complex.
I don't know. I don't know. That's a tough one. But all right, folks, that's gonna do for the mailbag. Thank you guys so much for the questions.
Thank
Really,
you.
really good questions this week. Probably the best we've had. Thanks to everybody that sent the questions in.
Breakfast tacos.
Fucking breakfast tacos! I want them. All right, so we're gonna move on to the final segment. We have gone so goddamn long today.
Oh my gosh.
And that's okay. That's okay, especially for the episode that we're supposed to be doing as quickly as possible because you haven't been feeling well.
I know, right?
Um,
I'm soldiering on.
No, you're doing great, dude. You sound good. Everything's fine. We're gonna get out of here because, ladies and gentlemen, we're at the last segment of the day.
Legally going to bed after this.
Right? Yeah. Well, hell, me too. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the final segment of the day, and ladies and gentlemen, that is and now it's time for Wednesday night scatter shooting with your host Mitchell Barron and Charlie Zarzuela right here on the MC Gamescast. Oh, thank you so much, announcer. You're great every week. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, pal. Let's get into it.
Sounds familiar.
It's weird. It sounds like one of us. Scatter shooting and wondering whatever happened to Wave Racer.
Oh,
So
wow.
good. Wave Racer 64, Wave Racer on the GameCube, fantastic games. They should bring that back. I would play it. I would play one. I would play another Wave Racer. Um, it's a fantastic game. That GameCube one is very good. Very good water. GameCube could make some really good water. All right, folks, with the 35th anniversary of Super Mario Bros. Upon us, I thought it would be fun to take a look back at arguably the worst Mario game ever released. Back in 1989, Nintendo and Sony agreed to develop a CD-ROM-based add-on for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System known as the SNES CD, or the Nintendo PlayStation, that would allow full-motion video and larger games. However, Nintendo decided to sign a deal with Philips to make the add-on, and Sony redesigned their console as the PlayStation. By 1993, Nintendo had abandoned the plans for the add-on, and as a part of the dissolving agreement, Nintendo licensed Philips to use the Nintendo characters for their CDI console, resulting in 3 Legend of Zelda games, as well as a little Mario game called Hotel Mario. Hotel Mario is a single-screen puzzle video game. Controlling Mario or his brother Luigi in 2-player mode, you must search the Club Koopa Resort for Princess Toadstool, who has been kidnapped by, guess who? Bowser! The game comprises of 6 hotels, which feature several stages. The players must shut every door in the stage by moving up and down elevators and avoiding enemies. It was critically panned and very quickly forgotten. J.C. Fletcher of Joystick ridiculed the plot. Apparently, Bowser has nefariously plotted to have his underlings open doors in his own hotel, thus wasting air conditioning and increasing his own electric bill. Mario and Luigi must heroically latch the doors and save the arch enemy from having his hallways get too cold. Games Radar described it as, quote, craptastic. The FMV cutscenes were wildly criticized, with OneUp.com describing them as outright terrifying.
What?
Yeah, you should go watch some of those FMV cutscenes. Holy crap. Next up, with the latest generation of consoles this generation of consoles beginning to wrap up, it's time to take a look at the list of best-selling games of all time. Here's the top 10 as of now. Minecraft, 200 million copies sold. Grand Theft Auto 5, 135 million. The mobile version of Tetris, 100 million. Wii Sports at 83 million. This surprised me. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, PUBG, 70 million copies of that game. 70 million copies of a shit game that I can't stop playing. The original Super Mario Brothers at 6 at 48 million. Pokemon Red, Green, Blue, and Yellow, which were the first Pokemon games, 48 million as well. Wii Fit and Wii Fit Plus, 44 million. The original Tetris on Game Boy /NES, 43. And Pac-Man at 43 rounds out the top 10. There are only 2 other games from this generation that actually cracked the top 20, and that would be Red Dead Redemption 2 and the current version of Call of Duty Modern Warfare with 32 million and 30 million, respectively.
Wow.
All right. To finish
a lot of money.
To finish up scattershooting, how about a few quick hits? Starting with, during the early stages of development, Charlie, Batman Arkham Asylum was prototyped as a rhythmic action game. The second prototype focused on 2D fighting, which would pop up whenever enemies were engaged and involved colored circles bashing into each other. Both of these failed attempts fueled the basis for the final combat system.
Really?
Our next quick hit is for our good friend Josh Shizzle. In the Nintendo 64 game GoldenEye 007, Rare originally intended to include Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, and Sean Connery as playable characters in multiplayer. The plan for that was scrapped prior to release, but the character models for these actors were still in the coding on the cartridge. In 2005, a group called the Rare Witch Project cracked the game's code and found them. In our final quick hit, many of the Koopalings from the Super Mario games are named after famous musicians. Most people could see the pattern with characters like Ludwig, Iggy, and Lemmy. What you may not know is that in Super Mario World, the fire-breathing Triceratops characters are named Reznor, named after Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails. who also wrote and produced the soundtrack for Quake. And finally, a kid is playing video games in his room, minding his own business. His mother walks in and says, "Honey, come meet my new boyfriend." "I don't know, Mom. I'm kind of busy. Can you just bring him in here instead?" So a minute later, the boyfriend walks in and goes, "Hey, champ, how you doing?" The kid ignores him. Then the man says, "Don't like champ, huh? Well, that's fine. How about Blue Dragon 72? The kid quickly turns his head and says, "I haven't heard that name since I was 10 years old. He then realized, wait a minute, it can't be. Then the man says, "Yeah, Call of Duty, right? I told you I'd bang your mom." Thanks for hanging out with your old pals Mitchell Barrett and Charlie Zarzuela right here on Scattershooting on the MC Gamescast.
Yeah, boy, that's truth.
Oh, man. When I found that, I was like, this is the one. This is the one. Oh, it's so good.
It's really good.
It's real good. It's real good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, 2 hours and 45 minutes after the start of this podcast, we have completed episode 7. Thank you guys so much for being here. Charlie, thank you so much for being a trooper, getting through this.
Thank you for putting up with my voice, man.
Nah, it actually, I was worried it was going to be a lot worse than it was, and to be honest, I don't think I really could tell the difference. So you do done good. Ladies and gentlemen, this will be up on YouTube tomorrow, Thursday, and on all the podcast services. And also tomorrow night, 9 p.m., Charizard81 on Twitch will be playing some NCAA 14 marbles on stream with me on Friday. And of course, Sunday night, Charlie will probably complete his Doom 2 playthrough.
Killing it.
We're having a great time doing this. Thank you guys so much for... That's right. Thank you guys so much for all the support on the podcast and the stream. Charlie, we're almost through close. We're going to get through it. We're going to get done. We're going to get into September. We're going to get back to the office, and I'm going to get you one of those great breakfast tacos. Delicious. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, for my good friend, Charlie Zarzuela, I am Mitchell Barrett. Thank you guys for listening to the MC Gamescast. Y'all have a great one. Goodbye, everybody. We love you so goddamn much.
Laters.